Lord of Mystery, The Return of the Stars Chapter 541-550. January 10, Fainaport Kingdom, the southernmost Saris County. General Patton, the highest military commander in charge of Saris County, just received a telegram from the offshore cruise fleet. There was only one word written on the entire telegram: war. He could imagine that the situation at the time must have been very urgent, so that the telegraph operator only had time to type this keyword in a hurry. What is the intelligence department doing? Are you still immersed in the New Year's drunkenness and debauchery? Or are you lying on some woman's belly? It wasn't until the enemy's navy arrived offshore that there was news of the war. General Patton was furious, with a dark face, and he wished that the group of fat pigs in charge of the intelligence department would sink into the sea to feed the fish. At least this would be of some use. Quick, connect to the royal city for me. I want to quickly inform the king of the situation here. But General, we don't know which country the war is referring to, whether it is a large-scale attack or a small-scale test, and which port they will attack first. We currently know nothing about the enemy. Too stupid. Are all my subordinates such brainless trash? General Patton slammed the table hard, shaking the documents on it to the ground, and he said sternly, the enemy must be coming from the southern continent. They are planning to use our kingdom as a breakthrough point to attack the northern continent. General, how can you be so stupid? How can I be sure? I think we should wait until the investigation is clear before passing the news to the king. It would be bad if those nobles who only know how to enjoy themselves accuse you of lying about military intelligence. Quote. Asshole. General Patton kicked the talkative subordinate angrily. What do you know? War is like fire, there is no time to delay, we must inform the king in advance so that the king can prepare early. If we really wait until everything is investigated clearly, it will be too late. General Patton ignored his extremely stupid subordinates, walked to the telegraph, and asked the telegraph operator to send a telegram to the king according to his will. At this moment, General Patton felt a chill in his heart, and looked down in astonishment, only to see that a sharp blade had pierced his heart, and the tip of the knife had pierced through the flesh. You, traitor! General Patton condensed a set of dawn armor around his body, but before the armor was completely condensed, more than a dozen black skinny skeleton claws emerged from his feet, pulling him down, and then a sharp blade slashed across his throat, completely dissipating his last remaining strength. Not just me, but us. The subordinates that General Patton looked down upon before now had excited and cruel lights in their eyes. The tide of the times began to surge and roll, and someone will always have to make sacrifices for it. After a few more screams, the frightened radio operator, under the threat of death, began to send telegrams to the royal city, but the content was a little different. Everything is fine, calm. The calm of Saris County ended 3 days later, on a bright afternoon on January 13. The fishermen fishing in the nearby waters were disturbed and collided by the warships from the southern continent. Some died, some jumped into the sea. At this time, the navy stationed at the port slowly reacted, but they were greeted by ruthless artillery fire from powerful ships and cannons. At General Patton's mansion, the news of General Patton's death had not spread. A new telegram was urgently sent to the royal city, which read, General Patton fought bravely and has kept the enemy out of the country. Monday, January 15. 10 days have passed since Hasta and Audrey's engagement ceremony. During these days, Hasta spent half of his time with Sharon and Audrey, and the other half was preparing to return to South Wales at any time. At 3 o'clock in the afternoon, Audrey stayed in the room alone under the cover of Susie, responded to Mr. Fool's call, and went above the grey fog to participate in this week's tarot club. After Mr. Fool finished reading the 2 pages of Russell's diary, Alger couldn't help but speak in a heavy tone. Warships from the southern continent have been found on the sea. According to the direction they are sailing, their target of attack this time is the Feynet Kingdom. The war has begun. Audrey, Furs and others were shocked. It was only January 15. According to the distance from the southern continent to the Feynet Kingdom, the army should have set sail more than a month ago. But no one discovered the attack route of the southern continent in advance. Even their tarot club did not receive the corresponding news until this week. Compared with the southern continent's attack on the Feynet Kingdom, such a large-scale military operation that was hidden and unnoticed by anyone was even more terrifying. It turned out to be the Feynet Kingdom. Catalia subconsciously glanced at Miss Justice and Miss Magician. According to her guess, the southern continent should choose the Kingdom of Lowen as a breakthrough point, which is the best marching route. After all, the Kingdom of Lowen has not yet completely occupied the Feysak Empire and is not capable of it militarily. The Faenaport Kingdom has not participated in any wars in recent years. In addition, there are good harvests almost every year, and there are abundant strategic materials. It is a typical country that is easy to defend but difficult to attack. The war is coming, and what Huang Guang Venedin said that day has come true. It came so quickly. Klein, who was sitting in the first seat, was also digesting this news. Recently, he was busy digesting the magic potion in his body and making the final effort to be promoted to a Sequence 4 Weird Mage. Originally, he wanted to wait until the end of the month to try to get promoted. Now it seems that he should speed up so that he can survive in the future chaos. Is the news reliable? Audrey regained her composure and asked calmly. According to the time, the army of the southern continent should have begun to attack the county of Ceres, but the news seems not to have spread yet. Alger was also puzzled by this. He learned this news from other pirates and confirmed that a large army of warships from the southern continent had indeed passed by some time ago. But there seemed to be no sound from the Storm Church, which was obviously abnormal. The biggest possibility is that someone or an organization suppressed the news to gain a favorable time difference for the southern continent to attack the Kingdom of Faenaport. The Tide of the Times, the Twilight Hermit Society. Mr. Fool spoke slowly and answered the doubts of the Tarot Club members present. What do they want to do? Fur's voice trembled a little. War. Mr. Fool said this heavy word in a tone that was almost chuckled. Fortunately, the Tarot Club members were attracted by the war and did not continue to ask why the Twilight Hermit Society wanted to start a war. Klein had no answer to this question. He guessed that it might be related to the ultimate goal of the organization, the Twilight Hermits. It might also be related to the stars. A lot of what Huang Guang Venedin said that day was about the stars, which meant that the stars would play an important role in the future. Perhaps this war was also tacitly approved by the stars. As for the real reason, he would not foolishly go to divination. At present, his primary goal was to be promoted to a Sequence 4 trickster. Miss Justice, I have a commission, and I'm afraid only you can complete it. Alger looked at Audrey. After getting her approval, he continued, I want to know what the attitude of the top leaders of the Kingdom of Lowen is towards this war. I will find out about this matter. As for the reward, there is no need. This is also something I am interested in. Audrey generously waived Mr. Hanged Man's reward. Now she is not very interested in the trivial matter of earning some gold pounds. Since she got engaged to Mr. Asta, Rohal transferred Mr. Asta's betrothal gift and part of the family assets to her name. The total value is about 1 million gold pounds. Just by keeping it in the bank and earning interest, she can earn tens of thousands of gold pounds every year. Not to mention, she has Mr. Asta by her side now. Then Audrey offered a huge reward of 2,000 gold pounds for the latest news. Miss Justice's financial situation seems to have improved a lot. This was the first thought that came to Klein, Alger, and Fur's minds. Although Miss Justice was rich in the past, the pocket money she could actually use was not so terrible. Now Miss Justice seems to have enough finances to support the operation of the entire Tarot Club. During the transaction, Klein and others once again experienced Miss Justice's terrifying financial strength. She bought 2 extraordinary items from Ms. Hermit and customized an extraordinary item from Mr. Hanged Man. The total value exceeded 7,000 gold pounds. Audrey vaguely sensed that the members of the Tarot Club looked at her with a little envy and surprise. In fact, she just felt that the war had come, so she thought about indirectly strengthening the strength of other Tarot Club members by spending more money. In this way, it would be easier for her to obtain new information and help in the future. This is a guaranteed investment. But compared to investing in tangible things such as banks, minerals, and land, she invested in the broad future of Tarot Club members. Well, she believed that this was definitely a very valuable investment. She did not notice that Furs looked at her with a bit of suspicion and certainty. Miss Justice is Miss Audrey. She had noticed it before, and this time she directly confirmed the identity of Miss Justice. She had heard Zio say that in the aristocratic customs of the Kingdom of Loan, the ladies of the nobles usually had to wait until they got married before they could truly control the wealth they had. Recently, in the entire Backland, there was only one aristocratic marriage, Miss Audrey and Mr. Hasta. And at the engagement ceremony, she also heard other noble ladies talk about the huge fortune that Miss Audrey might get this time in a very envious tone. To sum up, Miss Audrey is Miss Justice, and this is an absolutely correct fact. Noticing that Furs was staring at her for a long time, Audrey smiled at her kindly. After the tarot meeting, Audrey found a reason to take Susie, who was lying outside the door, to Haster's house in a carriage. Although they were engaged, they did not live together yet. As for when to get married, Earl Hall asked them to decide on their own. The master is in the study on the second floor. Azishara came out to greet them. She was talking to Audrey, but her bright eyes were always staring at Susie. Susie, play with Azishara well. Audrey stroked Azishara's little head and handed Azishara to Susie to take care of. I'll take you to the garden. Azishara walked in front with great pride, and Susie followed silently behind. Only in front of Susie did Ashera find the joy of being a human being. Compared with a big golden retriever, a person can do more things. Flexible hands are far from being comparable to dog paws. For example, when playing chess, although Susie is very good at reading, it is difficult for her paws to even grab a chess piece, and she can only push it. This way of playing chess is easy to make mistakes. Azishara picked up the loopholes many times and defeated Susie in one go. On the second floor, Hasta was sorting out his various industries in Backland, ready to return to South Wales at any time. Miss Sharon, are you away today? Audrey walked into the study and asked casually. She has some things to deal with in Backland. Hasta put down the documents he was sorting, got up and went to the sofa, pulled Audrey to sit next to him, and asked, "What happened?" Mr. Hasta, do you know that the war is about to start? Yes, I know. Audrey, who originally wanted to reveal some of the latest news to Hasta, was a little depressed and said, "When did you know?" "A few days ago. You know that I have a good relationship with Bernadette of the Pirate Kingdom. Many of the latest news on the sea are difficult to hide from me." Really, just a few days ago? Audrey's serious tone made Hasta silent for a while. Audrey, everyone has their own little secrets. I don't want to hide anything from you, but some things are not suitable to tell you yet. Asta was about to say this when Audrey said first, "Everyone has their own little secrets, and I have too, so Mr. Asta doesn't have to feel ashamed for not being able to be honest." Audrey smiled brightly and put her little hand in Asta's palm. "Then let us each keep our own secrets, and when we think it's appropriate, we can tell each other honestly." Yes. Audrey didn't stay for too long. After discussing with Asta about the possible strategic decisions of the top leaders of the Kingdom of Loan, she took Susie away in the reluctant eyes of Ajara. "Pack up your things, we will return to South Wales in a few days." Butler Neil responded and began to prepare to leave Backland. In the early morning of January 18th, the Saris County of the Kingdom of Fainet was completely breached. At this time, the top leaders of the Kingdom of Fainet, who were still immersed in the warmth of the new year, received the real news from Saris County and hurriedly began to discuss countermeasures. At 8 o'clock in the evening of January 18th, Backland, who also received the news, summoned several nobles to the palace to discuss this matter, and Hasta was one of them. "I can only do my best to ensure that Southwell County will not be lost." Hasta made his own guarantee, which made the Loan royal family feel relieved. They were really afraid that the young Earl Campbell would give up at this critical moment. In order to allow Hasta to manage the entire Southwell County legitimately, the Loan royal family appointed Hasta as the Grand Duke of Southwell. Hasta initially refused this ominous position in which 3 Grand Dukes died, but when he thought that this ominous position was caused by himself, he did not refuse. At the end of the meeting, the Loan royal family allocated another 500,000 gold pounds of military funds from the treasury to Hasta, asking him to improve his armaments and make sure to defend Southwell County. As for the support for the Kingdom of Fainaport, it was not mentioned at all in the meeting. The so-called lips and teeth are cold, which is just wishful thinking. The day after the meeting, Hasta went to Southville. He asked Butler Neal and others to take the steam train, and he took Sharon and Azishara through the travel portal to Southville directly to avoid wasting time. Audrey chose to stay in Backland and did not go to Southville. Earl Hall regretted that he should have completed the engagement ceremony and the marriage at the same time. On January 20, the army from the southern continent, with Saris County as its base, crossed the sea and arrived in Saris County with a steady stream of troops, and then divided into 3 groups to start a full-scale attack on the Kingdom of Finet. On January 25, the king of the Kingdom of Finet was suddenly assassinated while delivering a mobilization speech and died of serious injuries. On January 26, the terrorist organization Aurora Society loudly claimed responsibility for the assassination of the king of the Kingdom of Finet. On January 28, the turbulent Kingdom of Finet was unable to organize an effective counterattack, and fortresses in various places were breached one after another. On January 30, the Faenaport Kingdom sent envoys to the kingdoms of Lenberg, Seager, Mossy, and Lowen to seek military assistance. On February 1, in South Wales, inside the family castle, Hasta was enjoying a brief moment of time with Sharon. After he got engaged to Audrey, Sharon hid away on the pretext that she had to deal with temperance affairs. Until she came to South Wales, she had nowhere to hide. At night, Hasta fell asleep early in Sharon's room and entered the Palace of Stars. Tonight's gathering of stars, with the addition of the Goddess of the Night and the True Creator, 2 gods from within the original barrier, will definitely be more interesting than previous gatherings of stars. Hasta can already imagine the shocked looks from the old days from the Jinn, the Mother Tree of Desire and other outer gods. He sat quietly in his seat, thinking about possible situations that might arise tonight and related countermeasures to prevent the meeting from getting out of control. After finishing thinking, Hasta first scanned the stars where they were located, and then led them one by one to the Hall of Stars. The first one is the Jinn, followed closely by the Mother Tree of Desire, the Superstar Lord, the High-Dimensional Overlooker, the Original Hunger, the Night Goddess, and the True Creator. The Mother Tree of Desire and other outer gods who came first looked at the last 2 members of the Gathering of Stars with a scrutinizing gaze. One is an inverted black cross, and the other is a mature, elegant woman wearing a complicated black dress whose face is difficult to see clearly. The Jinn, who knew all the hidden existences within the initial barrier, had a strange look in his eyes and said solemnly, "The True Creator and the Goddess of the Night." The Mother Tree of Desire also recognized the Goddess of the Night. Part of the authority of the Crimson Moon was in the hands of the Goddess of the Night. Later, the Goddess of the Night made a deal with the Mother Goddess of the Earth. During those years, he, the fallen Mother Goddess, and the Night Goddess competed for the authority of the Crimson Moon. Naturally, he could not forget such a familiar atmosphere. The gaze of the high-dimensional overlooker mainly fell on the True Creator. He traveled back and forth to the land abandoned by God several times, but he never met the True Creator. The other party obviously avoided seeing him on purpose. The scene was silent for a while, and after sizing each other up, Hasta casually introduced the True Creator and the Goddess of the Night to the Mother Tree of Desire and other outer gods. "This is a great opportunity for communication. I believe you will have a great time chatting." Hasta leaned back slightly and looked at the back of the chair, waiting for the exchange between them. With the Jinn around, it would be difficult for both of them to remain silent. "I didn't expect that you two would be the new members. It seems that you also feel that the end is coming and everything is irreversible." The genie took the lead to break the silence. "No one is sure what the outcome will be until the last moment." The Goddess of the Night responded calmly, not feeling frightened by the foreign gods in front of her. "Are you planning to defect to our camp?" Mother Tree of Desire asked directly. "Do you need it?" The Goddess of the Night glanced at them. "You are outside the barrier, and we are inside the barrier. We have far more initiative than you. It is you who are asking for something from us, not us who is begging for you." The True Creator also spoke at the right time. "You can't open the seal left by the Lord of Mysteries. You can only look at the treasure mountain and sigh, and you can't go any further," the Superstar Master said indifferently. "What if the Lord of Mysteries is awakening?" The Goddess of the Night dropped an important bomb very casually. The eyes of the foreign gods such as the Mother Tree of Desire and the Superstar Master all brightened up, But only the Jinn god felt particularly uncomfortable and unhappy. He has not yet gotten rid of the seal of the wishing lamp and returned to the starry sky. Once the Lord of Mysteries wakes up early, won't he never have the chance to return to the starry sky? Damn it, the Jinn cursed in his heart. When he awakens, the seal of the western continent will naturally shatter, but you are still blocked from the original barrier. The goddess of the night spoke in a gentle tone, a fact that made them unable to calm down. This is the real reason why the Mother Tree of Desire and other outer gods have always wanted to penetrate the initial barrier through various means and spread their influence to the real world. Fight for time. Fight against other rivals and fight against the awakening of the Lord of Mysteries. The goddess of night is really good at chatting. Every word she says dances on the heartstrings of the old outer gods, such as the Mother Tree of Desire. She clearly understands what the Mother Tree of Desire and other beings want to do, knows the limits of their abilities, and knows where the advantages of herself and the true Creator are. It seems that during this period, in order to deal with these opponents from outside the starry sky, the Goddess of Night has also made a lot of efforts in secret. Of course, it is also possible that the Goddess of Night is so insightful by nature. After all, she has been the winner of 2 palace fighting conferences. Asta sat silently and watched, but secretly complained in his heart. On the contrary, the true Creator seems to have no sense of existence at all. Is it because he doesn't like to talk to people by nature, or has he reached a certain consensus with the Goddess of Night? The lamp god, who had come to his senses, said coldly, "Guayami has awakened. Do you think you can take the lead? Then you don't understand the personality of that bastard Guayami. Once he awakens first, the first thing he will do is to pull down all of you gods who may go further. After confirming that you are not a threat, he will open the seal of the western continent. After he awakens, only his voice can exist within the initial barrier. You will all be his experiments or playthings. Because he doesn't need to stand in a line, nor does he need to choose any side. Wherever he is, there is the strong side. As for the anchor you want to protect, in his eyes, there is no value at all. The so-called miracle of life is just a tiny ant that occasionally gets lucky. As the opponent of the Lord of Weirdness, the words of the lamp god are full of weight. You won't let Guayami awaken, because you can't bear the consequences either. It's better to directly kill all possible opportunities for him to wake up. At least you can delay it for a while. The Mother Tree of Desire also regained its former calmness at this moment. The Superstar Overlord also spoke lightly. If you have personally experienced the era of the Lord of Mysteries, you will never place your hopes on him, because he has the power to fool. The High Dimension Overlooker did not speak, and his attention was always on the real Creator. The original hunger narrowed his eyes, as if he had fallen asleep. It is foolish to believe in the mercy of the gods. The tone of the Goddess of Night remained unchanged. She seemed to mock. If it is on the condition of helping him wake up, I believe he will be willing to guard the initial barrier and protect the entire real world. After all, this is not a difficult task for him. The Lamp God, the Mother Tree of Desire, and the Superstar Overlord were silent. Compared to welcoming the end of the world, ending this era in advance and entering the era ruled by the Lord of Mysteries is not necessarily a bad thing. He did this at the beginning, and history is still moving forward slowly without interruption. This is an irrefutable reason. For the true gods in the initial barrier, the coming of Doomsday is the real unbearable burden. Letting the Lord of Mysteries awaken is a good solution, especially since the Lord of Mysteries is still very weak and needs some help. Complete extinction and being ruled, this is a choice that is easy to make. After a short silence, the Mother Tree of Desire looked at Hasta, who was sitting at the top. Stars, will you sit back and watch the Lord of Mysteries awaken? This sentence reminded the Lamp God and the Superstar Lord, and they all cast their eyes over. It is difficult for them to effectively stop the Lord of Mysteries from reviving and returning, but the stars are different. He is also in the initial barrier. The Goddess of Night and other gods choose the Lord of Mysteries between extinction and rule, so what about the stars? Will he let the Lord of Mysteries wake up completely? Especially now, the awakening state of the stars is obviously better than that of the Lord of Mysteries. With the authority held by the stars, plus this star palace, it is fully capable of leading them to come through the initial barrier before the Lord of Mysteries wakes up completely. Facing their inquiring eyes, Hasta just smiled and said, "No." Hearing this answer, the mother tree of desire and the god of lamp breathed a sigh of relief. As long as the stars stood on their side, it would be very difficult for the Lord of Mysteries to wake up completely. The goddess of night looked thoughtful. Will the stars sit and watch the end of the world? No, the same answer made the atmosphere at the scene strange again. The goddess of night did not continue to ask, because she had already got the answer she wanted. What is the position of the stars? Which side does he lean towards in the two major camps of the outer space and the real world? Or does he represent absolute neutrality? The mother tree of desire, the god of lamp and other outer gods fell into deep thought. This was a difficult question to ask, and even the god of lamp did not ask his doubts at the first time. The Lord of Mysteries, God, they are all recovering step by step. Hasta did not mind throwing out a little news about God. The real Creator has already come to the gathering of the stars, so this news is not so important. After a brief shock, the jinn, the mother tree of desire and other outer gods thought of another question. Aren't the stars also returning step by step? What will the situation be like when the doomsday comes in the future? Will the Lord of Mysteries dominate alone, or will he continue the unfinished battle with God, or will the stars also participate in it? No matter which situation it is, it seems that it has little to do with the outer gods who can only stay outside the initial barrier. At this moment, the lamp god felt a strong fear in his heart, and he immediately restrained his usual presumption. The mother tree of desire was thinking about the real purpose of the stars. Why did he invite the goddess of night and the true creator to participate in the gathering of the stars? He must have a plan to achieve a certain purpose. Which ancient existence is the star? The superstar lord felt inexplicably uneasy and a little panic about the future at this moment. He always had a feeling that the relationship between the stars and him was just like that between him and the eternal sun. Seeing that the atmosphere was a little unusual, the high dimension overlooker looked at the true creator and chuckled. I have traveled back and forth to the God-forsaken land many times, why can't I enter your kingdom of God every time? You are deliberately avoiding me. This behavior proves that you must be hiding a secret that I am interested in. The words of the high dimension overlooker revealed the heavy topic just now, allowing the mother tree of desire and the lamp god to focus on the true creator. Hey, it's a bit strange. People have always said that the real creator is a lunatic with no mind, but your condition doesn't look that bad. The lamp god also noticed something wrong. In order to survive better, a certain degree of disguise is always needed. The real creator's voice was low and hoarse, like a rusty whistle that had not made any sound for many years. Is it just a simple disguise? I always feel that there is a huge secret hidden behind you. The last person who gave me this feeling was Adam, the child of the ancient sun god. The firm tone of the high-dimensional overlooker made the lamp god and the mother tree of desire active. The superstar master also put away some of the uneasiness in his heart and began to look at the real creator sitting opposite him seriously. Real creator, hey, creator. Your title is more famous than the origin of the Lord of Mysteries. The lamp god was just a habitual joke, but he was stunned after saying it. Since the Lord of Mysteries and God are waking up and returning, what about the original creator? Is part of his consciousness also waking up and returning step by step? Creator. The thoughts of the mother tree of desire and the high-dimensional overlooker were also affected by the words of the lamp god, and there was a little more fear in their eyes when they looked at the real creator. The original exists in every living being, and the more powerful the existence is, the more likely it is to awaken the original consciousness. Once the original consciousness is fully awakened, he will frantically gather everything, and then split again, and then the entire universe will evolve again. The original creator. Not likely. The high-dimensional overlooker was the first to question, if he is really the original, with the strength he has shown so far, the real world cannot be so peaceful, and it has fallen into complete chaos long ago. Maybe he is not the original creator, but the title of creator is far from being something that any god can bear. The eyes of scrutiny, suspicion, scrutiny, and fear were all cast on the real creator, and he just faced everything calmly, without the idea of explaining. Unfortunately, he is not the original creator. The goddess of night rescued the real creator with regretful tone. If the real creator was really the original creator, the original barrier would not be torn again, and the end of the world would not come. On the contrary, what should be worried about are these outer gods who are entrenched in the starry sky. If the original creator awakens, they would have fled to the deepest part of the starry sky, instead of staying here and trying to fight for the source. The lamp god also felt that he was thinking too much. How could the original creator awaken? Real creator, what is the relationship between you and Adam? The high-dimensional overlooker had a sharp gaze and was not evaded at all. He always felt that there was something wrong. The aura of this real creator was a bit similar to that of Adam, but there was a clear difference, as if they were of the same lineage and from the same source. The jinn beside him hesitated to speak. He had heard about the origin of this true creator. In today's terms, there is no doubt that the true creator is a depraved and terrifying evil god, a dark existence standing opposite the six righteous churches. His followers, the Aurora Society, are a good example of this. Her reputation in the mysterious world is even greater than that of the original witch, and everyone shouts and beats her up. But he also heard another story about the true creator. When the ancient sun god was about to fall, the Lord of Storms, the eternal sun, and the God of knowledge and wisdom, the three kings of angels who served the ancient sun god, stabbed the ancient sun god in the back at a critical moment, causing the sun god fell. The true creator is the ancient sun god who is not completely dead. This is why the Lord of Storms, the eternal sun, and the God of knowledge and wisdom are so hostile to the true creator. But what the specific truth is, he cannot completely see through. At that time, there was the power of night covering everything, and the remaining power of the ancient sun god was still there. He is still sealed in the magical wishing lamp, unable to go out freely, and the secret information he can pry into is limited. At this moment, hearing the high-dimensional overlooker ask about the relationship between the true creator and Adam, he couldn't help but recall this past event. If the second statement is true, then the true creator is the ancient sun god, the old father of God's son Adam. The existence of such a relationship will naturally arouse the suspicion of high-dimensional overlookers. After thinking about this, the jinn smiled and had no intention of telling the high-dimensional observers. Firstly, he did not want to satisfy the curiosity of the high-dimensional observers. Secondly, he could not determine whether it was true or false. It is better not to say anything than to say the wrong thing. The tone of questioning. The true creator chuckled and said disapprovingly, "Use thinking instead of asking. That way you will be closer to the answer. I'm just out of curiosity." Gao Wei looked down at this moment and restrained his sharpness when questioning him. "If you are unwilling to answer, of course I can't force you. I will find out the answer to this question myself." Gao Wei, who was looking down at him, glanced at the jinn. Just now, the jinn was hesitant to speak, and finally his expression changed to one of gloating and watching the show. He did not escape his observation. Having been sealed in the wishing lamp for endless years, are you not curious about this issue at all? Or are you unable to observe the changes that have taken place in the outside world? Gao Dimension's simple words of provocation caused the Deng Shen to retort coldly, "I was just laughing. You can only ask such irrelevant questions and cling to small problems as major breakthroughs. Isn't such childish behavior funny? Oh, do you have any suggestions?" Gao Wei Overlooker said in a slower tone, "If you can answer my doubts, I might be able to let you come out of the wishing lamp to get some air." "Oh, no need." The jinn god glanced at him rather proudly, "Just think of it as my kindness to satisfy the curiosity of an ignorant person like you. Anyway, this is not a hidden secret." The high-dimensional overlooker did not care about the attitude of the jinn god and waited quietly for his next words. Then, the jinn spoke about the possible relationship between the ancient sun god and Adam. There are inevitably some similarities between father and son. If they are not similar at all, it would be strange. Gao Wei looked down and felt a little satisfied with the melon-eating mood, and whispered, "So that's how it is." But he didn't think so in his heart. He had met Amen and dealt with him many times. Amen, who is also the child of the ancient sun god, did not give him this special feeling. Adam and Amen are different, even though they are brothers. Perhaps the fallen ancient sun god had given Adam an extraordinary task, or left some backup plan on him. This is why I feel strange. A father and son who love each other. Haha, I'm afraid it's not simple at all. This is indeed not a secret. The true creator just said lightly, the betrayer knows that history better than anyone else. It's a pity that you can no longer seek revenge on the eternal blazing sun. The person who spoke was the superstar master. Although he wanted to trap me to death in his own kingdom of God, he overestimated himself after all. The Jinn god said disdainfully, stop bragging. In just a few decades, your clone will never be able to escape from the kingdom of the eternal blazing sun. If you really wait for you to come out, not even a sip of soup will be hot enough. I don't feel happy about the miserable end of the betrayer. It doesn't matter, there is also the Lord of Storms. I have always hated him. If you want to help, I can help you. Gao Wei Overlooker said at the right time. This is completely against the Lord of Storms. Hastur watched all this silently. He has a complete view of the love and hatred between Gao Wei Overlooker and the Storm Lord. I am afraid that the Storm Lord himself did not expect that he would provoke such a person just by chopping down a thunder in Backland. Difficult person. I don't mind your help if needed. The true creator replied. After they chatted for a while, the Mother Tree of Desire briefly mentioned the southern continent's attack on the kingdom of Fenaport. The high-dimensional Overlooker and the Jinn were indifferent to this, but Primordial Hunger showed great interest in it, and his narrowed eyes opened at this moment. The Fenaport kingdom is the base of the Earth Mother's faith. The Desire Mother Tree looked at the indifferent Night Goddess. It seems that the relationship between you and the Earth Mother is not that good. Do you want to get an answer from me that I can do anything for the Earth Mother, even sacrifice my life? The Night Goddess asked back. I don't think you will sit back and watch the Fenaport kingdom fall. Even if the Earth Mother suffers a heavy blow, you can't occupy the power of the Crimson Moon alone. At least I have one less competitor. You will only have one less collaborator. The Desire Mother Tree understood the meaning of the Night Goddess myth. Without the Earth Mother to join hands with her, it is really difficult to deal with the fallen Mother God. After all, the extraordinary path where the Earth Mother is located belongs to the fallen Mother God. Once the Earth Mother falls, the fallen Mother God will be the biggest beneficiary. And the further strengthening of the fallen Mother God will be a greater threat to him. This is a very simple truth. But he still won't cooperate with the Earth Mother, just as a tiger won't cooperate with an ant to deal with an elephant. Only a beast like a lion can go with a tiger. I almost forgot that you still have the uniqueness of the god of war in your hand, and war is also what you expect. This time the goddess of night didn't speak, and the true creator threw the topic to the stars. What do the stars think of this war? Adam will become a god. Asta kicked the topic back, and at the same time warned the true creator not to test him for no reason. Adam. The high-dimensional Overlooker became interested. No wonder I haven't met him during this period of time. It turns out that he is hiding and preparing to become a god. Why, do you want to cause some damage? For example, destroy his god-making ceremony. The lamp god watched the excitement from the side without minding the big deal. This is a good idea, but I have a feeling that I can't stop Adam from becoming a god. His becoming a god is in line with the trend of the development of this era. The high-dimensional Overlooker said with regret, if I can really enter the initial barrier, I will definitely try to reverse the so-called trend of the times. The Mother Tree of Desire and the Superstar Overlord looked at each other and did not express any opinions on this war. Asta glanced at them and saw that they had no questions to discuss, so he announced that this gathering of stars would end here. After they left the Hall of Stars one by one, Hastur reviewed their conversation tonight alone. The attitude of the Goddess of Night is indeed very suspicious. Although friendship is a very illusory thing for the gods, he always feels that the Goddess of Night will not sit idly by and watch the Mother Goddess of the Earth fall. The relationship between them is not that of ordinary partners. It is more like a relationship between good girlfriends and sisters. Of course, it is not ruled out that the Goddess of Night is really cold and ruthless and allows the Mother Goddess of the Earth to fall like this. Perhaps the Goddess of Night also wants Rune to join the war at this moment, but the Lord of Storms and Steam are unwilling. Sitting back and watching the Earth Mother Goddess fall, for them, can effectively disintegrate the strength of the Night Goddess. Although they are allies in some matters, it does not mean that they will not be wary of each other. The relationship between the Night Goddess and the Earth Mother Goddess is too strong, which makes the other four gods feel a sense of crisis. If Rune did not express his intention to join the war, Seeger, Renberg, and Ma Shi would not be eager to join the war. As the gods of knowledge and wisdom, they must have their own understanding of how to protect themselves and stand on the side. After thinking for a while, Asta created a world map on the table of the Hall of Stars and began to think about the possible direction of the war in the future. Do you want to take a look at the future fate of the Feyenopotter kingdom? Asta has not used the ability to peek into fate for a long time. With his current ability, with the help of the Hall of Stars, he should be able to peek into the result of this matter. Spying on the future fate of a country. Asta, who was trying it for the first time, was a little eager to try. When he closed his eyes and let the river of fate rush forward, one incomplete picture after another flashed through the dark world in front of him. The kingdom of Feynet, the kingdom where the belief in the Mother Earth is based, the country burned by war, from the county of Ceres to all parts of the country. Finally, he saw the picture he wanted to see. The bright flag of the Balam Empire from the southern continent was planted at the highest point of the royal city of the kingdom of Feynet. The palace belonging to the king was also completely occupied, and the church belonging to the Mother Earth was also demolished and burned. In the end, the kingdom of Feynet still did not escape the fate of destruction. Did the goddess of night really sit back and watch the Mother Earth fall? Asta opened his eyes again. The picture he had just spied on showed that the kingdom of Feynet was indeed destroyed in the end, and even the church of the Mother Earth could not be saved. Or is this just part of the future? Asta, who had many experiences of spying on fate, would not blindly believe the fragments of fate he saw. Perhaps the Feynet kingdom was really in a state of extinction at a certain point in time, and even the royal city was breached, but it might counterattack later. But looking at the overall situation, unless the kingdom of Loan fully helps the Feynet kingdom, the strength of the Feynet kingdom alone cannot counterattack the fierce army from the southern continent. Asta thought for a while and left the Hall of Stars. Asta, lying on the bed, opened his eyes and looked at the room shrouded in dim lights. The wall clock on the wall showed that the time hand had just reached 11 o'clock. Sharon, who was sitting quietly at the other end of the bed, noticed that he had woken up and looked over with a slightly concerned look. Sharon was not wearing the Gothic-style black palace dress tonight, but a light purple pajamas style with 2 aster flowers embroidered on the shoulders. The small black bonnet and the black palace dress were neatly hung on the hanger beside her. Her long golden hair tied up in a bun was freely and softly draped down. She looked a little more tender. This was the pajamas Asta had specially prepared for her. There was no other way. The palace dress was extremely complicated, and there were layers within layers. It was quite troublesome and laborious to take it off. Once Asta tore the whole black palace dress apart with a little effort, and Sharon was so angry that she almost kicked him off the bed. This time, it was obvious that he was guarding against himself in advance, so as not to tear her beloved clothes into pieces again. Sharon, come here. No, I just want to design a new nightgown for you. I don't believe it. Really, it's probably this style. Asta gave Sharon a brief description of the pajamas of the suspender nightgown. No. Sharon hugged the quilt tighter. Asta smiled, turned off the lights in the room, and then crawled from one end of the bed to the other, hugging Sharon tightly in his arms. It's still a little early, let's rest later. The smoke of war in the kingdom of Feyenopoort has not spread to South Wales. There are still many merchant ships coming and going for business, and there are more fleets going to the South Continent to make war profits than before. In the face of huge profits, there are always desperate merchants who transport some strategic materials to the South Continent for sale. It is said that on the South Continent, a part of the Navy is specially dispatched to escort these merchant ships coming to do business. During this period, due to the establishment of the Pirate Kingdom, most pirates stayed in the Rorstad Islands, busy fighting for houses and establishing territory in the Pirate King's city. Anyone with a discerning eye knows that the future Rorstad Islands will definitely become the center of the entire ocean, and various investments made in the new King's City will definitely get 10 times or 100 times the profit return in the future. Even the distant backland bankers, when talking about the current Rorstad Islands, their eyes are rarely filled with envy for the pirates. It is a golden land that has not yet been developed, a dream island full of gorgeous gold. Unfortunately, it is an area that only pirates or citizens of the Star Sea Kingdom can set foot in. Asta took advantage of his relationship with Bernadette to encircle a large piece of land in the core area of the new king's city in the Rorstad Islands. With his encouragement, Furs and Shu invested a small amount of money in 2 shops and a house. This new royal city called the Miracle of the Stars is pretty good, isn't it? At present, Southwell County has not been affected by the war. Butler Neil and his group are still on the way, and Hastur brought Sharon to the Rorstad Islands, which can be regarded as fulfilling the promise to bring Sharon here to play. Sharon did not speak, but concentrated on looking at the buildings in the royal city and the scenes on both sides of the street. Although most of the people living here are pirates, they seem to adhere to the principle of being a gentleman when they go ashore. From their dress to their behavior, they are all decent, although still a little unnatural. Even in the most mixed taverns, there are no fights, or shirtless, sitting naked outside the street. They look more gentlemanly and graceful than those nobles in Backland, but this is only on the surface. In their eyes, there is always a yearning for the freedom of the sea, and the blood boiling when they miss robbing merchant ships to obtain a lot of wealth. Is this the law of the Star Sea Kingdom? After a tour, Sharon finally asked the doubts in her heart. On the sea, they are still pirates who burn, kill and plunder. On land, they are gentlemen who are polite and courteous. Will they not be insane? Human beings are very contradictory. Sometimes they want to be good people, and sometimes they want to indulge their inner desires. The Star Sea Kingdom just provides them with a choice. Asta had participated in the formulation of the laws of the Star Sea Kingdom, and had guessed a little about Bernadette's vision. He continued, there will always be people who gradually like peaceful life and hate those fighting and killing. You can say that this is a very time-consuming influence. Over time, people who desire a peaceful life have passed on from generation to generation, and pirates who like adventure and galloping have died one after another. Most of those who survived in the end longed for peace. The era of pirates will eventually pass, in the near future. At that time, the Star Sea Kingdom will no longer be a pirate kingdom, but a real sea kingdom, a paradise. The two chatted while walking to the gate of the palace castle. There was a guard guarding here. Asta took out the pass that Bernadette had given him and walked in with Sharon. Unlike the bustling streets of the royal city, the castle was extremely quiet. Except for a few important sentries, there was no one in the other places. Walking along the way, it was empty, as if walking in an unmanned botanical garden. After going deep into the core area, Catalia and Edwina appeared in front of them. The two were discussing something in a quiet little courtyard. It's you, the young earl from Backland. Catalia remembered Hastur. Yes, come quickly, use your knowledge to help me solve these problems. Edwina came over and invited Hastur to help her solve some annoying problems. During the time when she was discussing the laws of the Star Sea Kingdom, she had seen the young earl's profound attainments in popular literature and mysticism. Go. Sharon nodded and walked towards the room where Bernadette was. Catalia subconsciously frowned slightly, looked Sharon up and down, stood up and said, I'll take you to see the queen. No need. Sharon walked over by herself, Catalia frowned even deeper, and followed. Her personality really hasn't changed at all. Asta looked at Catalia's expression that was obviously on guard against Sharon and found it very interesting. Edwina smiled and said, guess why there are so few people in this castle? Tisk, you women are much more terrible than men when you are jealous. Asta sighed and took some questions written by Edwina on the cardboard. Some are some problems encountered by the Star Sea Kingdom in its development, and some are about the future development direction of the Star Sea Kingdom. This should be the national political issue that Bernadette left for Edwina to solve. On the other side, Sharon walked into the room where Bernadette was as if no one was around. As soon as she entered the room, Bernadette put her arm around her shoulders and said in an intimate tone, Little Sharon, you haven't come to see me for a long time. Have you been indulging in the gentleness of the country recently and can't extricate yourself? Sharon took a half step back and slapped Bernadette's hand around her shoulders with disdain. You have become the queen of a country, can you be a little more queenly? It's only been a short time, and you are so tired of the old and the new so quickly. Bernadette had long been accustomed to Sharon's indifferent expression. She took her little hand again and walked into the room. Tell me what you have been busy with that little man during this period. Boring. I think he knows how to talk. Why is he so clumsy in pleasing girls? Bernadette pretended not to hear that Sharon's boring was referring to the question she asked. Behind her, Catalia, who saw this scene, opened her eyes wide, as if she could hear the sound of her heart breaking. Welcome to Fanfic Audiobook, your go-to place for immersive audiobooks. If you enjoy the content, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to our channel for more amazing stories. When she was frustrated and wanted to give up, the queen liked to say to her the most, "The struggle has never ended, we still need to keep working hard." It is said that this is the famous saying that Emperor Roussel used to warn the queen to keep fighting. Now, she once again realized what it meant that the struggle has not ended. She felt that she had defeated Miss Magician and Admiral Edwina of Iceberg successively, and she felt a little complacent, so she had a little slackness. Now it seems that her real opponent has not appeared until now. She is far from being able to be lazy. Little Sharon, what a kind and loving name. She only experienced the tenderness of the queen when she was very young. More importantly, this Miss Sharon actually showed an expression of disdain for the queen. She felt angry and sour in her heart, and finally all her emotions turned into a strong desire to fight. In terms of pleasing the queen, she will never lose to anyone. After completing her self-psychological construction, Catalia looked at Sharon again without the envy before, and only the seriousness of facing an opponent who deserves all her efforts. Sharon didn't say anything else. She just felt that the gaze from behind was particularly hot. Bernadette shook her head, as if sighing that there was no hope. She pulled Sharon to sit on the chair and asked Catalia to prepare tea and snacks for the guests. Originally, she was thinking about whether to recruit a few young maids to take charge of these trivial matters, but Catalia opposed it and said some reasons such as strangers should not get too close to the queen. She let Catalia take charge of these matters. Fortunately, she had very few guests to meet on weekdays, and even fewer guests to meet in the castle. I heard that Backland held a grand engagement ceremony. If you feel wronged, you can stay with me. Bernadette opened the topic in a relaxed tone. For the engagement of Hasta and Audrey, she simply sent a gift and didn't think there was anything wrong. Her father, the great Roussel, married more than 2 wives. Later historians concluded that the great Roussel was a playboy after research. It is said that during that period, many noble ladies and young ladies recorded their affairs with Emperor Roussel in their notes. Historians used the contents of these notes as evidence, combined with historical materials of that era, to come to this conclusion recognized by the public. After all, for the people of the Republic of Intis, being romantic has never been a sin, but a kind of honor. No need. Sharon calmly changed the subject and said, "It seems that you are still very relaxed." Bernadette sighed and said, "I just took advantage of your visit to relax a little. The law is not bad. Your little man also participated in the revision. Are you praising me or wanting to praise him?" "Praise you. It's really rare." Bernadette smiled. Seeing that Sharon was interested in the establishment of the Star Sea Kingdom, she briefly introduced Sharon to the current situation of the Star Sea Kingdom. When Catalia came with jasmine tea and snacks, Bernadette and Sharon were talking about the formation of the Star Sea Kingdom's army. On the sea, news is sometimes more informed than on land. The southern continent launched a massive attack on the Fanaport Kingdom, setting off the prelude to the war. Whether for self-protection or the possibility of future participation in the war, forming an army will be the focus of the country in the future. It is much easier for the Star Sea Kingdom to form an army than for countries on land. The major pirate groups gather together to form a very powerful naval force. Pirates when scattered, navy in wartime. This is Bernadette's initial idea. Otherwise, it is far less simple to maintain a navy on weekdays, with all kinds of expenses. Catalia put down the tea and snacks, stood silently behind Bernadette, and glanced at Sharon from time to time. "Don't participate in this war." After listening to Bernadette's words, Sharon gave her sincere judgment. "This is not something I can control alone." Bernadette glanced at the sky. "This is the Star Sea Kingdom, first the Kingdom of Stars, and then her Sea Kingdom. When the gods begin to intervene in the war, the stars will not sit idly by." Sharon didn't say anything else. After staying in the room for about 2 hours, she got up and left. Catalia saw her out. Halfway through, Catalia asked casually, "Miss Sharon, you seem to have a good relationship with the Queen. I've known her for a long time. The Queen seems to treat you differently from ordinary people. Not bad. Can you tell me how you and the Queen met? Not good. Sharon paused and added, too much trouble. Catalia was very tactful and didn't continue asking. She wondered in her heart, does the Queen like this kind of coldness that keeps people out? The two walked around the green corridor and came to the courtyard. Asta was chatting with Edwina about various mystical and historical knowledge. The Queen asked me to bring you a message. Catalia walked up to Asta and said solemnly, she is busy with work and has no time to host a banquet. If you are willing to stay and help solve some problems, she may have free time. Asta smiled and said, there are too many banquets in Backland. I like to eat something light recently. He didn't have the leisure to stay and help with the work. He brought Sharon here for vacation. After leaving the castle, Asta took Sharon to the property he bought here. He planned to take Sharon to the beach tomorrow. It was a pity that he didn't have time to make a few swimsuits for Sharon. It was a great pity that Sharon couldn't see her swimsuit. Fortunately, Bernadette had the same idea as him and sent Sharon a few very fitting and modern swimsuits. In order to peek at Sharon dressed in a swimsuit, Bernadette deliberately left the castle and went to the beach for a walk. The next day, after admiring Sharon's beautiful swimsuit, Asta was very tactful to stay in the castle and help Bernadette deal with a day's work. On February 8, most of the southern part of the kingdom of Fainaport fell, and the flag of the Balam Empire from the southern continent was planted. On February 10, Seeger, Lindbergh, and Ma Shi sent a telegram expressing their deep sympathy. On February 12, the Kingdom of Lowen held an emergency meeting, and the leaders of the Church of the Night, the Church of Steam, and the Church of the Storm also participated. On February 14, the Kingdom of Lowen decided to express its deep disgust and condemnation of the barbaric invasion of the southern continent. On February 18, Backland held a grand performance, and Klein was officially promoted to a Sequence 4 trickster. Above the gray fog, Klein closed his eyes and rested for a while. He was gradually mastering the extraordinary ability of the Sequence 4 trickster. The promotion to trickster further enhanced the extraordinary abilities he had mastered in the past, and at the same time made him more weird and elusive. Now his paper stand-in can not only be used to disguise his identity, but also has a powerful healing effect. He can transfer his own and others' wounds or diseases to the paper stand-in. The range of the flame-jumping ability has also spread to 1,000 meters, which is more flexible and free. The power of the air bullet has also made a qualitative leap. A bullet shot out is like a cannonball exploding. The manipulation of the secret dolls has been comprehensively enhanced. Whether it is the manipulation range or the control effect of the spirit line, it has exceeded the previous limitations. The most important thing is that he has his own mythical form, which is the fundamental reason why Sequence 4 is called a demigod. Now, as long as one of the secret dolls is still alive, the trickster will not die. It is difficult for the enemy to know whether he has killed the secret doll or the real body of the trickster, so it can be said that the ability to save his life has been greatly improved. After determining his own status, Klein immediately walked to the depths of the mysterious space above the gray fog, towards the light stairs that led to heaven. After he was promoted to Sequence 4 trickster, there was another step here, the 6th step of light stairs. It was like a step designed specifically for giants, designed very high, sinking into the depths of the gray cloud. 1 step, 2 steps, 3 steps. Finally, he jumped and landed on the 6th step, on the cloud formed by the gray fog. What came into view was a brilliant light gate stained with a little blue and black. Inside it was composed of countless layers of light balls. The body of each light ball was a pile of twisted worms huddled together, some of which were transparent and some were translucent. Above this light gate, thin black lines hung down, and they hung almost completely transparent cocoons, shaped like silkworm cocoons. These silkworm cocoons swayed gently, and different souls were wrapped inside them. Some were black, some were yellow, some were white, some were wearing jeans, some were holding mobile phones, and some were wearing bright clothes. They all had the breath of life, but they closed their eyes tightly, as if they were in a kind of hibernation that could not be awakened. Klein's eyes froze for a moment, as if he had returned to Earth and was walking in a modern metropolis with a full range of races. Then, he noticed that 3 silkworm cocoons had been broken open, and there was nothing inside, and they were swaying gently in the wind. Klein looked up at all this, watching it silently, watching it quietly. In online novels, time travel is extremely interesting. It can free you from your boring life and go to a new world. There, you can have a new identity, you can still be yourself, you can meet different people, and you can experience different things. You can get rid of this weak body that can hardly live to 100 years old. You can get rid of the physical strength that makes you gasp for air even when climbing stairs. You have too many choices, and you can become a person far beyond your imagination. The abilities that can only be performed in TV dramas, such as calling the wind and rain, flying in the air, can be mastered by you. Go beyond the ordinary self and become a self that can only exist in dreams. Time travel sounds like an extremely lucky thing. But what if you just travel through time? Backlund, Audrey, who was about to lie down in bed to rest at night, felt the call from Mr. Fool. She asked Susie to stay outside the room, and she lay on the bed, silently reciting the name of the Fool, responding to this call. She came to the ancient palace above the gray fog, which was not the normal meeting time. It was quiet and deserted, without a trace of fireworks, but only the chill from the depths of the soul. Will Mr. Fool stay in this palace alone for thousands of years? Audrey couldn't help thinking in her heart, and soon she saw a small room on the side, with a mottled door slightly closed. Mr. Fool called her tonight because of the prayer from Mr. World, who wanted her to help treat psychological problems. She accepted this commission, so she came here. Pushing open the half-closed door, Audrey walked into the dark little room. A wall separated her from Mr. World. She sat down slowly, with her back against the wall. In this quiet atmosphere, she adjusted her state, and then said in a brisk tone, "Good evening, Mr. World." When her voice sounded in this quiet little room, her spiritual intuition felt the changes in Mr. World's mental and physical level, or emotional fluctuations and mood state, on the other side of the wall. Gray, low, confused, depressed, and uninterested in everything, as if his life had come to an end, without hope, but only despair so deep that he could fall into the abyss. Has Mr. World encountered any major life changes? Audrey had felt this emotion before, when she and Mr. Asta went to the dock area to see those people who had lost all hope in their eyes. The people there exuded the breath of the end of life from the depths of their hearts. At that time, she was not a psychologist and could not accurately analyze their mental state. Now Mr. World next door reminded her of this past, which proved that Mr. World and their mental state were the same. "Good evening, Miss Justice." Mr. World, who was separated by a wall, finally spoke to break the silence. This was undoubtedly a good start. At least, Mr. World was willing to say hello to her. "I'm curious about what you've been through. It seems that you have had too many sad experiences," Audrey said in the same tone as before. "If you are willing to share with me, we can simply chat like friends. Of course, if you are interested in my life, I am also willing to share some interesting things." Mr. World on the other side of the wall fell into a brief silence again. Audrey thought for a while, raised her lips slightly, and said with bright eyes, "I heard an interesting joke recently." A dog asked a cat a question. "Why do you always look so relaxed?" The cat replied, "Because I am a cat. I am a different creature from you." The dog nodded and said, "I understand, then I am a happy dog." This is a joke a dog told me. Silence, silence is the joke of tonight. Well, I don't think this joke is funny either. Seeing that Mr. World didn't make any movement, Audrey pouted slightly, then quickly straightened her posture and asked tentatively, "Mr. World, you should also know that I have an extraordinary dog, right?" At this time, Mr. World's slightly hoarse voice came from the other side. "What are your expectations for the future?" Finally there was movement. "This is a good start." Audrey's eyes turned slightly, and she answered seriously, "Try to improve yourself and strive to be promoted to demigod earlier, so as to protect your father, mother, and brothers." "Well, Mr. Asta can protect himself, and doesn't need my protection. I've been to Backlund's dock area. There's a slum there. The people living there are very poor in terms of both material and mental state. That was the first time I realized that this world is different from what I imagined. It's not just about fine wine and coffee, desserts and tea, singing and dancing, but also about the suffering of not being able to eat enough and not being able to wear warm clothes. That's a world completely opposite to the environment I've lived in since I was a child. They just exist in the slums and in Backland. It's conceivable that there are still many sufferings in this world that are difficult to count and see. The empathetic words from the bottom of her heart made Audrey keenly aware that Mr. World's mental state had fluctuated, just like a small stone disturbing a calm lake, with ripples and ups and downs. Audrey continued to talk to herself. Everyone's life script is different. There are scripts like mine that are smooth all the way and winners in the eyes of others. There are also struggle scripts for those who were born poor and worked hard to make progress, and there are also adventures with ups and downs in life. But I think no matter what kind of life it is, as long as you are still alive and have the ability to change a little bit, even if it is just to prepare an extra fried egg for your breakfast when you wake up tomorrow morning, it is a good start. Giving up is the easiest option in your heart, because you only need to not make some changes and let it go, and you can complete it. Audrey's gentle words finally made Mr. World, who was separated by a wall, have a subtle change of emotion. You once got information about giant dragons from the sun, so you should have a certain understanding of the fantasy dragon. If one day you suddenly find out that your father, mother, and brothers are all imagined by the audience through the Angel King, and have never really existed, how will you react? I'm sure he would collapse on the spot, or even lose control. Audrey was inexplicably panicked by this question, but she soon realized the psychological problem of Mr. World in this passage. He should have just experienced a life change similar to this if. This is also the crux of his psychological problem. Audrey did not answer directly, but asked in a guiding way. You seem to have witnessed the collapse of a hope. A self-deprecating laugh came from the other side of the wall. I once naively thought that I still had family in this world, but later I found out that it was just my wishful thinking. Why do you say that? There was silence for a few seconds next door, and then Mr. World's voice was heard again. You should have read a lot of Enlightenment fairy tales that Emperor Russell used as a tutor. That's my childhood memory. Then you should know the story of Sleeping Beauty and the Prince. In the dark room, only Mr. World's low voice could be heard. Narrating, there was such a person, who also fell into a deep sleep, until he woke up one day. He thought his family was still there. He worked hard to improve himself, worked hard to advance to a higher sequence, and worked hard to find a way to go home and reunite, which became the whole meaning of his life. But in the end he found that he had been sleeping for at least 300 years, or even 1,000 years, or even longer, and everything he originally had could never be found again, lost forever, and could never be made up again. Such intense pain and confusion made Audrey, a psychologist, feel strongly about it, and also made her understand how to help Mr. World. Mr. World, who lost his life goal, needs a new life goal. Only when he has a new goal to pursue, will he come out of the abyss of despair and continue to walk in the sun. If I were the protagonist in the story, I think I would experience a life of pain, confusion, but I would eventually find the source of all these stories. People always end their lives in confusion. When I finally wake up, I would rather die on the way to wakefulness. There are still many things to do and many problems to clarify. Even after thousands of years, history is there. There are always some people and things that survive. Maybe there are people who have the same experience as you, and they are also actively looking for something. This time, Audrey clearly felt that Mr. World was like a dying patient who was holding on to a life-saving straw and crawling out of the dark abyss little by little. Yes, there are people who have the same experience as me, and they may also come from my own era. Mr. World Klein suddenly thought of the 3 empty cocoons. There is no doubt that Emperor Russell, Huang Dao, is also a time traveler. And he also realized that there are other time travelers, so he left a diary written in Chinese characters. In order to give later time travelers a little inspiration and help. Otherwise, Emperor Russell could have destroyed the diary he wrote. In this respect, Huang Dao is indeed a very good fellow. I am also one of the travelers, so what about the traveler in the other cocoon? He should have left something in history, or, like me, he also lives in the present. Who will be the third time traveler to emerge from the cocoon? Klein calmed down and carefully recalled the people he had met along the way. Soon, he had a candidate in mind. Hasta Campbell, the young earl, should be the duke. Among all the people or non-human beings he knew, only he gave him a most special feeling. Moreover, he always treated him very kindly and helped him without hesitation in some things. He had tried to investigate Mr. Hasta before, and there was one very interesting thing. The original Hasta Campbell was just a handsome but ordinary nobleman. After experiencing a resurrection ceremony, his personality and even his life changed greatly. Very similar to Huang Dao at the beginning, after adapting to this world, he quickly showed his differences, successfully changed his life, and became a young talent and a winner in life in the eyes of others. He also came to this world by taking over the body of the original owner. The failure of the resurrection ceremony undoubtedly provided very good conditions for Hasta's birth. Moreover, he also found out that Mr. Hasta was a very generous researcher of Russell's diary, and had spent a lot of money to buy Russell's diary. It can be seen that Hasta should also be able to understand the contents of Russell's diary, and he also knows Chinese characters. No matter from which aspect, the possibility that Mr. Hasta is a time traveler is very high. According to the time calculation, he was born about half a year earlier than himself. If this is true, then everything can be matched, another time traveler. Klein smiled silently. Soon, he remembered Miss Justice, Miss Audrey from Backland. She was engaged to Hasta at the beginning of this year and was Hasta's fiancée. Maybe he could get some news about Hasta from her. But it can't be too obvious. It is not easy to deceive an extraordinary person who is a viewer. Mr. World. Seeing that Mr. World on the other side of the wall did not speak for a long time, Audrey couldn't help but tentatively shouted. "I'm just thinking about some problems." Klein gradually regained the depth of Mr. World Gairman Sparrow. "Miss Justice, you have a life with a winner's script in your hand. It's really enviable. I really don't know who will be lucky enough to be your life partner in the future." The teasing words proved that Mr. World's mood had gradually recovered and his psychological treatment had achieved initial results. Audrey was still in a good mood. She smiled and replied, "I have met a partner who can walk hand in hand for a lifetime. Meeting him is also my blessing. I really want to know what kind of person that is, Miss Justice. Do you mind telling me?" Klein said and quickly added, "I'm really sorry, I shouldn't pry into your privacy." "It's not that serious." Audrey didn't realize at the first time that this was Mr. World's excuse to retreat. "I thought he just wanted to change the topic to relieve his life full of suffering and despair. He is very knowledgeable, has a profound attainment in mysticism, and is impeccably handsome." Talking about and praising Mr. Hasta in front of others still made Audrey's cheeks slightly red. She gently supported her chin with her right hand, bent her legs, and rested her arms on them. The light in her eyes was as gentle as water. Maybe it was because of the dark environment, or maybe it was because she had just heard about Mr. World's suffering. She wanted to say something in her heart at this moment. After all, on weekdays, she didn't dare to talk about her psychological process of falling in love with him in front of Mr. Hasta. "We met by chance at a party organized by a friend. He left a deep impression on me. That was the beginning of my affection for him. When I first entered the mysterious world, I was still at a loss and only half understood it. He guided me in the direction of the mysterious world. He was very reliable and made people feel warm. This is my second impression of him. Perhaps a mysterious man can make people more curious. During the time I knew him, he was always shrouded in an undispellable fog. What he presented to people was only a part of him. He is lonely. He seems to be a little out of tune with the surrounding environment and the world. When attending banquets, he often hides in a quiet place alone and observes everything around him from a third-party perspective. He said he doesn't like standing in the spotlight because it is too dazzling. It is suitable for people like me, but not for him. Loneliness, incompatibility, liking to be alone. Klein accurately grasps these keywords, which is in line with the mentality of a time traveler who has just traveled through time. I had a similar feeling before, but fortunately I had Benson and Melissa by my side, and their captain and others behind me. With their company, I gradually got out of the lonely and intolerable mentality and began to actively integrate into this world. Mr. World, am I talking too far? Audrey was a little embarrassed to continue the conversation. She always felt like she was going off topic. It seemed like she was showing off her relationship with Mr. Hasta to poor Mr. World. Very interesting, you don't have to care about my existence. Klein motioned Audrey to continue. I don't understand where his loneliness that seems to come from the depths of his soul comes from, and he is obviously not very old. Thinking of the first dance she danced with Mr. Asta in this mood. Audrey's mouth corners slightly raised, her back leaned against the wall, her posture relaxed, and her eyes showed a look of reminiscence. But in my opinion, he is obviously more dazzling than everyone else. Even if he just stays quietly aside, my eyes can't help but look at him. At that time, he was still very poor, and he always showed an embarrassed look when it came to money, which made me want to throw a large sum of wealth at him to get a happy mood. Later, he took me to experience some small adventures, and we went to the sea together to find the legendary pirate treasure. It was during the journey on the sea that he held my hand and expressed his love to me in the dim lights of the port street. I wanted to reject his confession at first. I should have thought of rejecting it, right? Audrey lowered her head with a guilty conscience, and even her clear voice became weak. She thought carefully about the scene at that time. In the cold night, under the dim street lights, Mr. Asta just held her hand and said nothing. She was the one who said, holding hands means a lifetime. Mr. Asta didn't even confess. Audrey frowned, with a slightly tangled expression on her face. Holding hands means confession. It's just that Mr. Asta is thin-skinned, so he can't say those words. But she is not thick-skinned either. She thought about it seriously again, and suddenly got a little angry. He is such a good person, why would you want to refuse? Seeing that the voice next door stopped, Klein brought up the topic at the right time. Because he is too mysterious, even if we have been together for a long time, I still can't see through him completely. Although everyone has their own little secrets, I always feel that his secrets are particularly heavy. At this point, Audrey didn't want to continue talking. She didn't want to talk about the topic of Mr. Asta's secrets, even if the other party was also a member of the Tarot Club. If she asked more, it might arouse Miss Justice's vigilance. Let's stop here today. Klein smiled and said, thank you for your enlightenment and treatment tonight. Let's end here today, okay? Of course, it's not a big problem. When you are free next week, you can come for another follow-up visit, Audrey replied briskly. If it is convenient, you can prepare some medicine to stabilize your mental state and take it for 7 consecutive days. The ingredients are 10 grams of chamomile powder, 5 grams of rosemary powder, and 10 milliliters of lemon balm extract. Don't reduce your intake of sweets during this period, and relax yourself appropriately. Mr. Asta is particularly fond of sweets. This should be his way to relax himself. What is the consultation fee? We can talk about this topic next time. Audrey stood up with one hand on the wall. She hadn't figured out what she needed. Now she had just been promoted to Sequence 5 Dreamwalker, and there was still a long way to go before Sequence 4 Manipulator. She was not so eager for the extraordinary materials she needed. Thank you again for your help tonight. Klein used the power of the gray fog to send Miss Justice back to the real world, then waved his hand gently, dispelling the dark confessional and returning to the position of the fool at the top of the bronze table. There is no doubt that Hasta is the most likely third traverser. If I hadn't seen the light gate hanging above the gray fog with my own eyes, I wouldn't have suspected that Hasta was a traverser. He really hid it well. There is another key point. Why can only I come to the gray fog? From Rissel's diary, it can be inferred that even in his later years, Rissel had never been here. Otherwise, when he faced a desperate situation, he would definitely regard this place as his last trump card. If Hasta was the third traverser, did he know the cruel truth that he could never go back to Earth if he didn't come here? Probably not. Perhaps he didn't regard returning to his hometown as the meaning of life like me. He was already engaged to Miss Audrey, which showed that he was ready to stay in this world for a long time, just like Russell did. What about me? Let's go see Benson and Melissa tomorrow. I miss them a little. Klein showed a gentle smile on his face. Susie, I'm suddenly so angry. Backland, Earl Hall's house. Audrey was looking at Susie with an unhappy face. Woof, Susie shouted cautiously. Someone bullied me, will you help me get revenge? Woof. Susie leaned down at the right time, showing a fierce look with bared teeth. Mr. Asta, it's him who made me unhappy, go and help me beat him up. Woof? Susie wagged her tail and wanted to leave. This couple had to torment her single dog. Is this fun? Audrey came over, stroked Susie's head, thought for a while and said, Susie, please write a letter to Mr. Asta for me, and be a little angry. Susie looked up at Audrey and said nothing. Susie, you just said that you would help me vent my anger. Unable to bear Audrey's pleading, Susie finally agreed to this matter. It had also practiced writing letters. It knew that it was difficult for it to write neat handwriting, so it simply practiced simple sketches, using the least amount of ink to draw the most accurate meaning. When the blank letter paper and ink were ready, Susie stretched out her right front paw, gently dipped a little ink, and then began to draw 7 or 8 strokes on the letter paper. Susie. Seeing the pattern Susie drew clearly, Audrey's face was strange, and she couldn't help but let out a crisp and pleasant laugh. That's it, a very interesting painting. Audrey affirmed Susie's efforts and blew the whistle Asta gave her to summon the messenger. A bird with flaming red feathers opened the passage to the spirit world. Although it looked the same as before, Audrey still noticed that it was different from before. The body was slightly illusory, and the light in the eyes was not so bright. This should be its clone. Mr. Asta even has his own clone for the messenger. Audrey still put the letter away and gave it to the little firebird, asking it to deliver it to where Mr. Asta was. Hester had told her before that if his messenger was busy, he would help deliver the letter in other ways, but it turned out to be true. The Fanaport Kingdom, with the war spreading from the southern continent, has long lost its previous peace and harmony. The fields full of crops have become the best strategic materials for the invading army of the southern continent, and the rich land has become a battlefield for war horses and artillery. The ruthlessness of war enveloped the entire Fanaport Kingdom at this moment. Yinsen City is a town located on the south side of the Fanaport Kingdom. When the war spread, the tenacious resistance of the defenders attracted waves of artillery fire from the southern continent. The originally prosperous streets were riddled with holes, and the church belonging to the Mother Earth was also burned down by a fire. When the iron hoof of the war went away, only a dead ruin full of smoke was left. After nightfall, it was a luxury to light a bonfire for heating, let alone electricity. In the central square of the town, the mayor who was still alive called the survivors together, and used the planks taken down from the dilapidated houses to build a fire, roasting some peanuts, sweet potatoes and other crops that had just been dug out of the ground to barely fill their stomachs. No one wanted to speak at this moment, there were only suppressed sobs and the crackling sound of the planks being burned. Silence, an atmosphere of despair enveloped the place. The grain that was originally stored in their town for a year had been requisitioned as strategic materials, and after the baptism of war, grain had become their most scarce material at present. The Earth Mother Goddess who was in charge of reproduction, planting, and life, her devout believers would one day worry about food and even starve to death. Did the gods leave them, or were the gods now too busy to take care of themselves? They couldn't think of the answer to the question until someone whispered silently, "Can't the light of salvation cover those of us who have suffered so much?" The flames in the center of the fire, which were about to go out, suddenly jumped up, and the flames were much brighter and warmer than before, enough to dispel the cold tonight, and even the hunger in the stomach was improved at this moment. A shadow condensed by pure firelight stood on the orange-red silk carpet paved by the flames. Is it the gods who are responding to their calls? The people around who saw this scene, after a brief shock and hesitation, worshipped this figure as the incarnation of the gods. As the number of people who kowtowed increased, the voices of prayer became louder and louder. The incarnation of light gently stretched out a finger and pointed to a direction in the night. They looked in that direction, but saw only a dark night, and there was no one in the suburbs. When they didn't understand the meaning, the incarnation of light took a step, walked down from the fire, and walked straight in that direction. The footprints they had walked through left clusters of fireworks, which went from the center of the town to the suburbs shrouded in darkness. The incarnation of light was very fast, and disappeared from the crowd's sight in the blink of an eye. Only clusters of fireworks formed by footprints were still guiding the direction of the road ahead. Without the mayor's organization and orders, the crowd spontaneously followed the direction of the fireworks like a pilgrimage. When they followed the guidance of the light and arrived at the final destination, it was a cave buried by weeds and rocks. A dozen strong young men walked out of the crowd and moved the rubble, revealing the cave entrance. After entering the cave entrance, they saw the food that filled the entire cave, enough for the survivors to eat for 2 or 3 months. With this period of buffer, they can cultivate the fields and plant food again, and they will no longer go hungry in the future. The incarnation of light, the guidance of light, the miracle of light, appeared in front of people in need on this suffering land, showing a mercy far richer than that of the gods. Hunger, injuries, hardship, fear and all other negative emotions melted under the pure light. Some people say that when you have light in your heart, the incarnation of light will appear in any place with light to help you and guide you forward. Although the light of this star is not so dazzling in the land of chaos and war, it really exists. When the horizon ushered in the dawn of a new day, the warm sunshine dispelled the cold and despair of last night. In the Hall of Stars, Hasta took back all his light incarnations, closed his eyes and rested for a while, then stretched out his hand to rub his temples and the position between his eyebrows. Maintaining too many light incarnations is a matter of great spiritual power and spirit. He needs to give specific guidance and help to each person who asks for help according to their specific needs. Sometimes he needs to help people who have lost their homes and lost their way to guide them back home. Sometimes he needs to bless and treat people who are injured. And sometimes he needs to use his extraordinary ability to defeat fierce thieves or scattered soldiers. There are too many things to do, and just being busy all night makes him a little overwhelmed. In the future, I can only be busy for half a night, so that I won't be too tired, otherwise sooner or later I will die of exhaustion in the Hall of Stars. Hasta rested for a while before returning to the real world. He subconsciously reached out and touched the inner side of the bed, which was empty, and Sharon had already gotten up. Just sleep for a while. Hasta closed his eyes, intending to rest for another hour or two, and accidentally saw an extra letter on the bedside table. There was a picture of a lying golden retriever on the lower right corner of the envelope. This was a special envelope that Audrey had specially customized for Susie. Hasta propped up his upper body and poked his head out of the quilt. He stretched out his hand and the envelope flew into his hand. When he opened it, there was only a pattern on the letter paper and 3 thick and long exclamation marks. After a careful look, the pattern showed an image of Audrey who was about to explode, with only a round head and facial features that seemed to be about to burst, plus the exclamation marks next to it that were full of warnings. Hasta immediately understood the meaning of Susie's letter. This was Audrey being angry, and this time she was very angry, the kind that was difficult to appease. Did Audrey know that he and Sharon were going to the Rorsted Islands for their honeymoon? Or was it because he was busy using the Avatar of Light to play the role of digestive potion recently and had no time to write to her? Hasta carefully recalled what happened during this period of time and felt that these would not be the reasons for Audrey's anger. She must be angry about something else, so Susie secretly wrote a letter to warn herself. No, Susie would not summon a messenger alone. This was written by Audrey. It seems that I had to go to Backland to coax my lovely fiancé. Hasta murmured, got up, changed into a new set of clothes, went to the bathroom to wash up, and then went downstairs to have breakfast. Sharon and Azishara, who had already had breakfast, were strolling in the garden. Hasta greeted Sharon, pulled a travel portal in the garden, and returned to Backland. Azishara wanted to follow secretly, but was caught by Hasta, who was quick-eyed and quick-handed, and thrown out of the travel portal, almost falling on her butt. Sharon's mother, why don't you take care of your man? As soon as Azishara finished complaining, she was hit on the back of her head, and Sharon's indifferent voice came over. Practice calligraphy this afternoon, practice until dinner. Backland, Earl Hall's house. Audrey was finishing her morning study and took Susie to the garden to take a breath. Yes, she still needs to learn a lot of knowledge, especially after she got engaged and had a large fortune. Dear Earl Hall specially invited 2 teachers with quite good asset planning for her to learn financial management knowledge, so as not to squander her wealth due to ignorance in the future. Susie, what do you think Mr. Hasta's expression will be when he sees the letter you wrote? Audrey pinched the end of a green grape with her thumb and index finger. When she was about to taste it, the surroundings seemed to be still. A travel portal with space ripples was generated from the garden, and the servants and maids guarding around seemed to ignore this scene. I think his expression should be very bad. Asta appeared in front of Audrey through the travel portal and sat next to Audrey naturally. Mr. Asta. Audrey was about to say hello, but when she thought that she should be angry with Mr. Asta now, she had to act angry. She ate the grapes in one bite, but didn't chew them immediately. She pouts her right cheek slightly, turns sideways, and deliberately hums. Woof. Susie runs over, rubs Asta's trouser legs, and then runs to the shadows in the distance and lies down. Dear Miss Audrey, what did I do wrong to make you angry? Audrey still deliberately didn't want to talk until she was picked up by Asta and sat on his lap. After struggling in vain, she couldn't help but tremble and said, No, we will be seen. They can't see it, only you and Susie can. Now, can I hear the reason why you are angry? Asta's cheek pressed against her, and his hot breath sprinkled on Audrey's white and delicate neck. After rubbing his ears for a while, Audrey pretended to casually mention what happened when Asta confessed that day. Well, he did not give Audrey a perfect confession at that time. Holding hands is a lifelong thing. Asta smiled and said, This sentence is too beautiful, and all the words I prepared seem too cliché. Although she knew that Asta was deliberately praising her, Audrey couldn't help but raise her lips. She was not angry at all. Why did you come back suddenly? Don't you need to prepare before the war? I came back anxiously after receiving the letter, fearing that someone was angry in secret. I'm not angry. That's Susie who is angry. Woof. Asta and Audrey talked to each other for a while, then left Earl Hall's house and went to the Yellow Church. In order to attract believers as soon as possible, the Yellow Church today has come up with many names for promotion. What most arouses the interest of ordinary people is daily divination. It is human nature to like to calculate the future good and bad fortune. Free divination has allowed many ordinary people who cannot afford divination fees to enter the Yellow Church. Faith is like opening a casino. It is not afraid that you don't believe it, but that you don't come. As long as you keep walking into the church, your mentality will naturally change gradually under the subtle influence. The seeds of faith planted will sooner or later bear fruit. Asta disguised himself as an ordinary passerby and followed the crowd into the Yellow Church. As soon as he entered the door, a special guide explained the history of the Yellow Church and the functions of each area of the church to the newcomers. There was no special mention of the doctrines and beliefs of the Yellow Church, but it was a bit like a tour guide visiting tourist attractions. We hold a prayer ceremony on the last day of every month. At that time, the light of the stars will shine on us and guide us forward. If there is a chance, I will come to participate in this prayer ceremony. Asta smiled and said goodbye to the guide, choosing to wander around the Yellow Church alone. The prayer ceremony on the last day of every month was specially formulated by Asta. The members of the Yellow Monks like to walk on the deserted streets late at night when the stars are shining. There are too many such times, and often many places spontaneously organize members to pray, which can easily cause trouble. Asking them to hold a prayer ceremony at the end of the month is also to avoid some troubles. At the same time, it also helps me to play the role of digestion. The enlightened Saint Master is to lead people towards a brighter and better future. He is a leader and an enlightener, equivalent to Prometheus who stole fire and brought light in Greek mythology. Hasta walked around the various areas in the church. Just as he was about to walk out of the church gate, he saw the original Hunger disguised as an ordinary passerby and came to the Yellow Church. Looking at the familiar state of chatting with the guide next to him, it can be seen that he has been here several times. If it was a high-dimensional overlooker, Hasta would not care, but the original Hunger, who always likes to find food, has walked into the Yellow Church many times. There must be something wrong. Hasta just glanced at it briefly, retracted his gaze, and then walked out of the church gate. He was going to go back to the Hall of Stars and pay special attention to the movements of the original Hunger. Beep, beep. There is a new message for you waiting to be received and replied. A mechanical voice inexplicably appeared in his ears. Hasta only heard the first 3 beeps and knew that it was Will who was looking for him. Most likely he has come nearby, otherwise he would not be able to find me accurately. Following the source of the sound and the guidance of fate, Asta soon found Will who was enjoying his meal in an ice cream shop. Compared to the first time they met, Will has grown a lot taller, and his chin has begun to have stubble, which makes him a handsome guy. Here, seeing Asta walk into the store, Will stood up and waved happily. Asta walked over and sat opposite Will, looking at Will with traces of ice cream on the corners of his mouth, and chuckled. You really know how to enjoy yourself. You should try it too, the ice cream here tastes good. Will stretched out his hand and pushed the last ice cream, which was obviously strawberry flavored, in front of Asta, and then called the waiter to order 5 more ice cream scoops. You are tired of it, so you pushed it to me, right? Oh, don't mind this little detail. Tell me, what do you want to see me for this time? Asta still tasted this strawberry-flavored ice cream, which tasted okay, but not as good as the one made at home. Someone wants to find you through me. Klein, Asta guessed it right. There are very few people who can ask Will to run errands. He is one of them, and Klein is another. Well, he seems to have something important to find you. He wants to make an appointment with you. Because you have left Backland, he asked me to help contact him. During this time, Will showed off 3 ice cream balls. Asta thought for a while and said, he has been promoted to Sequence 4 Trickster? You are really perverted. You can guess so accurately. His attainments in secrecy are not low. In this case, I don't want to see him. Asta has roughly guessed what Klein wants to talk to him about. Klein, who has been promoted to Sequence 4, already knows the truth about his time travel. The 3 empty cocoons on the light gate have clearly told him that there are a total of 3 time travelers. Huang Dao, Emperor Rissel is one of them, the other is himself, and the last one, he locked his eyes on himself. This guess is not wrong, but it is not so accurate. I am not a traverser sent down from Saphira Castle, but a book traveler. I came to this world for unknown reasons. It may be related to the Hall of Stars, or it may be other reasons. The first traverser sent down from Saphira Castle was the Goddess of Night. In the current situation, I can indeed replace the Goddess of Night and become the 3rd traverser in Klein's mind. However, the Goddess of Night has been watching Klein. If he gets too close to him, it will naturally attract the attention of the Goddess of Night. Now is not the time for fellow villagers to meet. Moreover, Klein may be caught by Eamon later. It is difficult to hide his thoughts and psychological activities from Eamon. I don't want to expose the secret of crossing too early. Let Klein keep his suspicion and see what kind of temptation he will make to confirm his identity. You really don't want to see him? Will raised his head in surprise. If he wants to see me, let him come to me himself. Well, anyway, I'm just a messenger. Will showed a helpless expression and ate all the remaining ice cream. You've grown a lot taller recently. Do you have any plans to join the army? After all, it's time for you to serve in the military at your age. No, absolutely not, Will shook his head. At worst, I'll let my feet remain disabled for a while. They can't drag a cripple to the battlefield. You're really willing to do this to yourself. I'm used to it. This is a very sad story, but it makes people want to laugh when it comes out of Will's mouth. Oh, by the way, you have to pay the bill later. I don't have that much money on me. Will got up first and handed the task of paying the bill to Asta. Before leaving, he packed 3 more ice creams. Tisk, he's really good at taking advantage of others. He must have been a depilatory in his previous life. Asta paid the bill and returned to South Wales. For more thrilling fanfiction stories like this, check out my channel Fanfic Audiobook. Dive into epic adventures, mysterious realms, and legendary journeys brought to life through immersive storytelling. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more amazing audiobooks. Lord of Mystery. The Return of the Stars Chapter 551 to 560. In the Fourth Age, the fog of history is still silently wrapped, and the star containers are still quietly guarding outside this history. There is silence and silence here, far away from the disturbance of the war in the outside world. At this moment, it has become a pure land. Zareth, hidden in one of the hidden histories, sensed that the outside world had begun a war and that a new wave of the era had arrived. He knew Adam's methods. When this wave of time surged, that was when Adam became a god. Once Adam becomes a god, as his brother, Eamon will definitely actively seek opportunities to become a god. Neither of these brothers obeys the other, and Eamon will definitely not let Adam become a god first. It's time for him to get out of here, instead of staying here and waiting to die. Pales is already old. It is understandable that he wants to wait for death, but he still has one last chance to fight. His clone has found the extraordinary characteristics of the mysterious servant in the land abandoned by the gods, but it is difficult to get it. He needs his body to go there to have a chance. When Zaradul came out of that hidden history, Pales, who had been staying nearby, rushed over as quickly as possible and couldn't help but taunted. I will not sit back and watch you leave. Aemon is coming soon. If you don't want him to find you, this will be your last chance to escape. Oh, it was you who revealed the news to him again? Being blindly obsessed with hatred is stupid behavior. I just want to surrender and seek peace now. Is it that easy? Pales sneered again and again. It was difficult for him to stop Zaradul by himself, but the fog of history still had the incarnations of the stars, and the stars were watching here. I am willing to pay part of the price for my previous offense. Zaratul's eyes flashed with wisdom. I can help you regain your strength in a short time. You want to be my ally? Yes, because you can't pose a threat to me now, and Aemon is your and my most powerful enemy. You can consider it. Pales put away the hostility on his face and said with a smile, however, you must help me regain my strength first. I am trapped here and cannot fulfill my promise. As soon as Zaradul finished speaking, the fog of history began to surge outside. Some people are breaking through the fog of history and want to come to this piece of history. Aemon is here. Zaratul's eyes became more solemn. His true form cannot come in. Pales was sure of this. Aemon had always been cautious. Under the gaze of the stars, he would not easily let his body take risks. Confirmation through clones, and then weaving a large net from the main body, this is his usual strategy. Not necessarily. Aemon is now extremely eager to become a god. Maybe he will choose a desperate way. Zaradul had a different view. Although he did not understand Aemon as well as Pales, he understood Amon's unwillingness to succumb to Adam. While they were chatting, a small transparent insect the size of a thumb emerged from the gray fog of history, the worm of time. After its fat body completely emerged from the fog of history, it turned into the appearance of Aemon. Pallas, Zaratul, you are really hiding here. It is really easy for me to find you. Aemon took out the crystal single piece and put it on his eyes, with an inexplicable smile on his lips. His eyes were always fixed on Pales, as if looking at prey that he would never let go again. Were you talking about me just now? Aemon slowly approached. Guess, is it my clone this time or my true body? If you don't want to die here, take action. Pales shouted, and a huge clock rose up behind him. The hands of time turned slightly, trying to restrain Amon's body briefly and buy himself time to escape. Zaratul did not hesitate. He successively pulled out 3 historical poor images from the fog of history. One is Russell Gustav, who is wearing a dark red coat embroidered with gold thread and has long curly chestnut hair. One is the god Saya from the Rose School of Thought, and the other is a high-ranking member of the Red Army of War. Although he has known many angels in his career, Russell Augustus, the Sequence 1 Knowledge Emperor, has always been his first choice for summons. It is powerful, easy to summon, and almost never fails to summon. Time has been too long, so long that you have forgotten that the King of Angels is different from the general Sequence 1 in strength. Cold light flashed in Amon's crystal monocle. He looked at where Zarath was and directly stole his 3 historical aperture clones, allowing them to temporarily become his aide and help him drag Zarath down. Picture. The same mysterious clock behind him rose slowly, and the hands rotated extremely fast. They quickly turned around and around, completely suppressing Pale's authority and trying to restrain his body. This is Amon's true form. It wasn't until Aemon showed his ferocious fangs that Pales realized that the Aemon who risked his life and broke into the fog of history was actually his true form. How did you hide it from the incarnations of the stars that guarded outside the mists of history? Oh, it's just a birth container, Aemon said with contempt in his tone. Even if the star container has complete consciousness, it still cannot block his true form. Escape. Zarath, who was temporarily forced into a panic by the historical poor image he summoned, no longer had the idea of continuing to fight. His act of summoning the poor images of history was full of flaws in Amon's eyes and could easily be stolen. Instead, it became a means for Aemon to deal with himself. The authority of the Angel King is far greater than that of a Sequence 1 secret servant like him. As Aemon said, the Angel King has basically never used his full strength since the 4th epoch. No one knows how terrifying their strength is unless they are truly confronted. As Zaradul retreated into the mist of history, Pales also took the opportunity to escape into the mist of history. He deliberately chose to go in the same direction as Zaradul. Zaradul naturally understood his thoughts. If it were him, he would make the same choice. "Hey, where can you escape to?" Aemon sneered. He had already left a few time worms in the mist of history, enough to temporarily hold Pales back. When he followed him into the mist of history, Pales was trapped in the center, and Zaradul was trying to regain control of his own historical poor image. When Aemon was about to deal with Pales and take away his extraordinary characteristics, Rissel Gustav, who had been wandering not far from Aemon, had eyes that were empty like a robot, but his eyes suddenly became lively. He first glanced at Zaradul fiercely, and then called forth a vast torrent of knowledge, pouring it into Amon's body. "The damned thief should stay in prison," Russell Gustav shouted, and Pales hurriedly escaped from the historical mist and returned to the real world. Zaradul on the other side was startled by Rosal Gustav, who suddenly regained his self-consciousness, and hurried away, not daring to stay here any longer. Although he didn't know why Rosal Gustav could take back his historical gap image, one thing was certain: someone was pulling out a big net to hunt Aemon. He and Pales had always been bait, and their role was to attract Amon's body to come here. With Rosal Gustav's sudden attack, rays of light belonging to the stars penetrated the historical mist and hit Aemon accurately. In the dazzling light of the stars, the star containers slowly emerged from the historical mist. "You are right. It is difficult for me to stop your body from entering the history of the 4th epoch," the star container slowly said, "so, you succeeded in sneaking in silently." At this moment, Aemon, who was infused with endless knowledge by Rissel Gustav, suddenly exploded, and groups of translucent time worms appeared in an instant, and then quickly condensed into a new figure of Aemon. He got rid of Rissel Gustav's attack in this way, although he paid a great price for it. "Do you know why I kept Zaradul and Pales together?" When the star container opened, an ancient palace standing majestically in the depths of the nebula loomed behind him. "Because I know that when Zaradul faces you, if he takes action, he will definitely summon the historical poor image of Rissel Gustav at the first time. And you are good at stealing, you will definitely steal the historical poor image summoned by Zaradul, so that they will turn around and help you to contain Zaradul, so that you can better deal with Pales." The star container slowly approached, and the surrounding scene had turned into a brilliant starry sky, the real starry sky. Rissel Gustav has his own clear consciousness. This is an incident that even Zaradul did not expect, and of course you have no way of knowing it. You should not have thought that the toy you stole will turn against you one day, right? The real starry sky, under the power of the star palace behind the star container, formed an extremely powerful starry sky cage, firmly locking Aemon here. At this time, another figure appeared from the starry sky, the high-dimensional overlooker. It was with his help that Aemon was transferred from the 4th epoch history to the real starry sky in the few moments when Aemon was attacked by Rissel Gustav. It was easy to ask the high-dimensional overlooker to deal with Aemon. The stars promised that they would help him deal with the Lord of Storms, and that was all. At night, stars hang in the starry sky like blinking eyes. They emit their own light and dye the night sky into a bright starry sky. Those blinking eyes are not only watched by the stars, but also by the goddess of the night and other high-altitude true gods. Their eyes were also focused on it, watching and admiring the thief who was imprisoned in prison. The thief should be put in prison. Russell Gustav looked at Aemon, who was temporarily locked up, and sneered, "And that old guy Zaradul really thinks he can manipulate me at will. Historical poor images. It would be a shame not to lock him up too. Next time, I won't let him escape easily." Russell Gustav whispered brokenly. His condition had improved a lot since the last time the stars arrived at the island. Tonight, the first moment Zaradul summoned his historical poor image, he noticed it, and then came over to see what Zaradul wanted to do. He saw Aemon, the thief, beating Zaradul, the magic stick, and he was happy to cooperate with Aemon to beat Zaradul. When the gaze of the stars comes over, he knows who the main dish is tonight. For a thief like Aemon who is good at escaping and stealing, the best way is to throw all the useless junk to him. Don't you want to steal it? Steal enough for him at once and see how much more he can hold in his pocket. People who are not completely dead are really troublesome. Aemon, who had been silent in prison, finally spoke at this moment. His eyes looked at Russell Gustav. Next time, I will steal your most beloved treasure. Kungshing, help me beat him to death. Russell immediately became angry, and wanted to deal with his caring little cotton-padded jacket, which simply made him angry. Haha, can't you calm down? A smile appeared on Amon's face. Those of you who have scruples, when you really want to fight for your life, your abundant humanity will be your fatal weakness. Of course people like you don't understand the preciousness of human nature. Oh, it should be that you haven't had the love of your parents since you were a child, so now you are mentally disabled and think about revenge against society every day. When it comes to fighting skills, Russell can probably compete with the Jinn. Hearing Russell mention the ancient sun god, Amon's expression instantly cooled down. He pushed up the monocle in his eye sockets and glanced at the starry sky prison formed by the 6 chains of stars and the palace of stars. Now, you guys, how do you want to kill me? Or are you simply incapable of killing me? There was a faint smile on Amon's lips. He had seen through the reality of the stars. Although the power of the stars was very terrifying, his current power to intervene in the real world was not strong. At most, it is equivalent to a divine descent, and with this power alone, it cannot pose a fatal threat to him. The high-dimensional overlooker comes from the old days of the outer god in the starry sky. His body is naturally very strong, but how much power can he exert beyond the initial barrier? In the last hide and seek, he had roughly figured out the details of the clone of the high-dimensional overlooker, which was only stronger than the ordinary sequence 1. As for Russell Gustav, what appeared in front of him was just an image of a historical poor. How much consumption could Zaratul's spiritual power support? A group of incomplete beings could severely injure him, but it was not that simple to make him die. Amon's calm look made Russell unable to stand it any longer. He shouted in the distance, "Zarath, you old bastard, hold on." His historical poor image still needs to rely on Zaratul's spiritual power to maintain it. Once Zaratul disconnects this connection and no longer supports him, his power will quickly drain away. Even if it is just an image of a historical whole, I am still the man who once ascended the throne of the Black Emperor. Seeing Russell preparing to give Aemon some glory, Hastur in the Hall of Stars chuckled lightly and directed the power of collecting the extraordinary characteristics and uniqueness of the 3 princes of murder to Russell's body. At this moment, the power in Russell's body increased rapidly. While accepting this power, he absorbed Zaratul's spiritual power, and finally temporarily became a Black Emperor with Sequence 0 personality and authority. The expression on Amon's face finally showed subtle fluctuations. The 3 extraordinary characteristics of Prince Murder and the uniqueness have all gathered in the hands of the stars. And it can also temporarily help Russell Gustav, who is just a historical poor image, temporarily support the status of the Sequence 0 Black Emperor. No stealing here, it is forbidden to escape from this place. Sinners who blaspheme the law and order before our eyes will be punished with thousands of arrows piercing their hearts. A stern and cold voice sounded, and order and rules began to take effect at this moment. The black pattern of rules belonging to the power of the Black Emperor spread around, and then sharp arrows came through the clouds and air, pointing directly at Aemon in the bullseye. With nowhere to hide, Amon's body was suddenly shot into a hornet's nest by black arrows. This was a spectacular scene. Before I leave, I will leave you with a little souvenir. Russell's body began to fade away, and Zaratul could no longer afford such a supply of spiritual power. Ever heard of tattooing the face of a sinner? The illusory and nearly transparent Russell used his last power in the form of rules, leaving an indelible tattoo on Amon's forehead. The word thief was drawn with ink dye in Hermetic language. Each word was 2 inches square, and with the ink dye, it looked very dazzling on Amon's smooth forehead. After completing all this, Russell laughed and left. Boring. After the arrows pierced his heart, a new self walked out of Amon's broken body. What he didn't expect was that the tattoo on his forehead did not fade away, but remained there. He tried to erase the tattoo, but it was difficult to shake Rissel's final mockery. Only then did he understand that the two rules Rissel had just made were used to restrict himself, and the third rule was used to confuse himself, just a prelude. What Rissel really wanted to do was to leave this indelible tattoo on his forehead. This was a humiliation and mockery from Rissel. It's your turn. In the Hall of Stars, Hasta resisted the urge to laugh, let the star container look up at the starry sky above, and issued an invitation. Look, come on, Aemon is here, this thief of fate is in prison right now, who wants to be the next executioner? The whole starry sky seemed to fall into a brief silence, and just when Aemon wanted to show an expression of indifference, the god of knowledge and wisdom actually chose to be the first to make a move. The vast light of wisdom fell from the starry sky above, like a meteor shower. But every falling meteor accurately turned and hit Aemon in the prison, and at the same time a pure white eye appeared in the starry sky, as if brewing and peeping and looking for something. I didn't expect that he would be the first to make a move. It seems that he has decided on the future team. He is worthy of being the god of wisdom. Hasta praised. The gods who chose to make the first move at this time can be regarded as standing on the side of the stars. It is just that this meaning is too obvious, so the Stormlord, who is used to shattering darkness with thunder, has been slow to act. Is that pure white eyeball the eye of all-knowing? Is he trying to take the opportunity to find something? Hasta thought for a while and understood the god of knowledge and wisdom's idea. He also had doubts about the fall of the ancient sun god, so he took this opportunity to observe Aemon carefully to see if the ancient sun god had left any tricks on him. Unfortunately, he found the wrong person. If his all-seeing eye observed Adam in this way, he should be able to see the relationship between Adam and the real creator. Sure enough, the all-seeing eye was put away after observing fruitlessly, and the god of knowledge and wisdom threw down hundreds of wisdom lights and hit Aemon hard. Aemon in the starry sky prison gave birth to a new existence from his tattered body, but this time his aura was obviously weakened a lot. Waiting for death is not Amon's style of doing things. He wanted to break free from this prison, but the 6 chains of stars that circulated back and forth imprisoned his body tightly, and the high-dimensional overlooker was responsible for stabilizing the surrounding space, making it difficult for him to break the imprisonment here and leave, so he could only keep consuming. As the god of knowledge and wisdom took action, the power of the night began to surge and spread. The speed was very slow, as if it was constantly accumulating power. Aemon felt a little uneasy deep in his heart. He was not afraid of the god of knowledge and wisdom's actions, but the goddess of night was different. He had a hunch that the goddess of night really wanted to take this opportunity to kill him. He had already started to kill. On the 3 extraordinary paths leading to the Lord of Mysteries, it was easy to be restrained by the goddess of night. Even the half-fool was still imprisoned in the kingdom of night. It's time to fight. Aemon put away his previous somewhat scattered state, his eyes slightly focused, and an illusory ancient clock with a hazy light rose behind him. At this moment, the pointer was spinning around and around like crazy. Aemon began to get anxious. The deterrent power of the night goddess is still strong. It seems that during the fall of the ancient sun god, Aemon had already glimpsed the terrifying side of the night goddess. In the Hall of Stars, Hasta watched all this. He knew that Aemon must have some kind of support, enough to let him escape, or a trump card to turn the tables. The reason why he boiled the frog step by step was to make Aemon reveal his trump card, so that he could send him off completely. Night is when the power of the night is the strongest. The surging power of the night gradually gathers from the stream into a lake, and then into the ocean. At a certain moment, this power paused for a moment, and then condensed into a huge black figure standing horizontally under the starry sky. This is the incarnation of the power of the night goddess. Wearing a layered but not complicated dark long skirt, it is dotted with countless brilliance, just like the stars in the night. 2 arms grew out from the ribs and waist, covered with short dark hair. 2 of the 6 hands held the heavy black sickle. At this moment, the heavy black sickle was raised high, constantly gathering the power of the night. After being promoted to Sequence 4, there is a mythical creature form. The Extraordinary can temporarily control this mythical creature form to fight the enemy, but it cannot last long. The gods have truly mastered the power of this mythical creature form. Once they reveal this form, it often means that they are going all out. The goddess of night wants to eliminate Aemon, the great enemy, for Klein. On the road to the Lord of Mysteries, the goddess of night always values Klein. Human nature is what Aemon sneers at, but it is what the goddess of night values most about Klein. Unlike the ancient sun god who is an old father, he can only bet on Aemon. When the black giant sickle gradually condensed into substance, it cut through the night sky. The black sickle was like a black moon, moving from top to bottom, as if it was going to directly cut Amon's body and the starry prison in half. The rapidly rotating pointer behind Aemon turned the power of time, trying to win a future destiny for himself to avoid and escape the attack of the black giant sickle. Click! A crisp cracking sound was heard, and it was not the starry prison that broke, but the clock behind Aemon that turned the time pointer. In front of the power of the goddess of night, her authority and strength were not enough for her to confront head-on. At this time, a sigh sounded, and a huge cross rushed to the front before the black giant sickle tore Amon's body, blocking it, and took advantage of the momentum to guide the power of the black giant sickle to hit the starry prison together. The violent and chaotic power tore the stable space and crushed everything around it. Aemon, the clock was broken, and Aemon, with a pale face, looked at the cross coldly, and then took the opportunity to leave. Adam is hiding now, and only you, the true creator, can help Aemon. Hastur was not surprised by the true creator's move, and he also kept one step back. Aemon, it's not that easy to escape just like that. Under the starry sky, the cross and the black scythe that collided with each other, as well as the incarnation of the goddess of night, all disappeared, leaving only a chaotic and distorted space and time in their original places. Let's get started. The high-dimensional overlooker next to the star container, receiving the signal from the stars, raised the corners of his mouth slightly, spread his hands, and kept fiddling with the chaotic space and time in front of him. Aemon, who had already escaped far away, was transferred to the original position again. It can be vaguely seen that there is a chain of stars in Amon's body that tightly binds his body. This is a seal, and also a positioning. Aemon, who escaped in shackles, only needs to hold the chain tightly to easily pull him back again. This time, Hastur did not wait any longer, even though the sky was covered with dark clouds, lightning and thunder, which was a sign that the Lord of Storms was about to take action. Because if he waited any longer, Aemon would have escaped before the Lord of Storms killed him. Under Hastur's full urging, the Hall of Stars began to inspire his powerful authority. A brilliant starry sky portal opened silently in the depths of the starry sky. He wanted to send Aemon to the starry sky. Under the starry sky, in the real world, it was difficult to kill Aemon with his current strength and the clone of the high-dimensional overlooker. But if Aemon was sent to the starry sky, there would be too many people who could deal with him. The starry sky that Hastur prepared for Aemon this time was the area where the Son of Chaos, the other half of the lamp god, was located. Because it was too dangerous to open the starry sky portal directly in the territory of the high-dimensional overlooker. It was easy for the high-dimensional overlooker who was good at manipulating time and space to take advantage of the opportunity, even though this was a one-way starry sky portal. Only allowed to leave from the real world, not allowed to come in from the starry sky. On the Rorstad Islands, the wishing lamp following Bernadette began to shake wildly at this moment, and the genie looked at the distant starry sky and couldn't stop wailing. It is the starry sky portal that can leave here. This is my best door to return. Aemon, why don't you hold me now? I really want to exchange positions with you. I can still feel the breath of the other me. Stars. You must have done it on purpose, you are so cruel. Bernadette just glanced at the genie and let him continue to wail. When her father appeared, she sensed what was happening in the starry sky. I didn't expect that hunting Aemon would lead to so many terrible changes. The stars even directly opened a starry sky portal to send Aemon to the starry sky. If it really succeeds, Aemon will never be able to come back. The starry sky is an absolute place of death. Even if a true god goes to the stars, he will encounter unexpected events. Only the lantern god has been deliberately trying to return to the starry sky. Tonight is indeed a good opportunity. Unfortunately, he is still in the wishing lantern at the moment, and he will definitely not go to join in the fun under the starry sky. Not good. The lantern god who had been wailing seemed to have sensed something. He stopped wailing and said with an extremely solemn expression, "There is the aura of the fallen mother goddess. Yes, he has polluted Mr. Door and has some of Mr. Door's authority. The starry sky gate is also a door. When the stars open the starry sky gate, it will never be hidden from his induction. Although it is only a one-way portal, in the eyes of the fallen mother goddess who has the authority of Mr. Door, this is undoubtedly a door worth trying. The stars have blown up the starry sky portal. This is undoubtedly an excellent countermeasure, but alas, my return is far away." The djinn sighed heavily at the end, looking up at the stars with an extremely melancholy expression. "Has the fallen mother goddess come in?" Bernadette asked. "Of course I can't come in." The djinn put away his melancholy and gloated, "Even I can sense the movements of the fallen mother goddess, how can the stars not know about it? When the fallen mother goddess just made a move, he blow up the starry sky portal and put an end to the idea of the fallen mother goddess trying. Then was Aemon sent to the stars. No, it was almost. This time it was the fallen mother goddess who saved him. Haha, he dared to provoke the stars at will before he became a god. Do you really think that the stars can't do anything to him?" The Jinn god said disdainfully, "The stars are indeed not very powerful in intervening in the real world, but the authority to control the starry sky is real. As long as he is willing, he can leave the outer god Old Day in the starry sky at any time and make the end of the world come early. Do you understand now why the 6 righteous gods always compromise when facing the stars? Haha, they can't afford to gamble, and they can't even afford to lose." After the lantern god finished speaking, he looked at the starry sky in the distance again. He felt that tonight's affairs should be over, so he returned to the wishing lantern. Is this the authority of the stars? How terrible! Bernadette could not control the feeling of fear in her heart. Being able to make the end of the world come early is equivalent to having the power of life and death in the entire real world. As a believer in the stars, I am lucky in all aspects. It would be a pity not to send that scourge of Aemon to the stars. In Backland, on a street late at night, Pales and Zeratul rarely sat outside a tavern at the same time, looking back at the starry sky. Zeratul remained silent and did not speak, but looked up at the starry sky above his head with eyes full of fear. After personally experiencing the power of the stars, he was truly frightened. Just being able to upgrade a historical poor image of Russell Gustav to the Sequence 0 Black Emperor was enough to make him feel deeply afraid. Not to mention the power of the stars to control the starry sky, even the blasphemer Aemon, the king of angels, was almost thrown into the starry sky to fend for himself. Hey, Shoucha, you have offended the stars, and the road ahead will not be easy. Pales could see Zeratul's worried mood. This is my own choice. Zeratul stood up and disappeared. Aemon suffered a heavy blow tonight, which was the best time for him to enter the land abandoned by the gods to find the extraordinary characteristics of the mysterious waiter. It's time for me to go back. That brat will probably be shocked. Well, you can take a peek at his late-night life first. Pales chuckled and disappeared. Have you learned your lesson? If you rely on yourself to recover from these injuries, you won't be able to recover in hundreds of years. I have told you many times not to provoke the stars. His person and authority are there, and intervening in the real world is just a means. In an ordinary church with a simple shape by the sea, in front of the cross under the dome, stood a simple and gentle ordinary priest wearing a simple white robe, a cross pendant on his chest, and eyes as clear and pure as a baby. Beside the priest stood a young man wearing a black classical robe, a pointed soft hat of the same color, black curly hair, black eyes, a wide forehead, and a thin face. At this moment, he was lowering his head slightly, gently wiping the single lens glasses in his hand, and occasionally blowing a breath on the lens to make the lens brighter and cleaner. Your pride, self-confidence and underestimation of the enemy will one day lead you to the desperate situation of death again. You rely on another important clone that you prepared in advance. Even if the original body dies, the extraordinary characteristics and uniqueness will escape by themselves, and then be resurrected in that important clone. Stupid trick. In the prison of the stars, once your original body dies, the extraordinary characteristics and uniqueness will be completely left there. When you are resurrected, you will no longer be the blasphemer Amen of the Angel King, but an ordinary Sequence 2 angel. The calm tone of the priest's narration made the young man's eyes deeper. He slowly put the crystal monocle on his right eye, and a smile appeared on the corner of his mouth. Isn't this a very interesting adventure? I was almost sent to the starry sky tonight. The power of the stars is really interesting. I really want to steal it. The slightly teasing and laughing tone did not look like the desolate appearance of a person who had just suffered a disaster. Good luck won't always favor you. But I'm still alive and well, and you've taken the opportunity to get to know the stars better, haven't you? Amen smiled. This is also my credit. Adam just looked at Amen calmly, who still didn't care, and slowly said, Father God once predicted, you are the God of cunning, the God of mischief, and the light when the end of the world comes. Hearing the name of Father God, Amen put away the careless expression on his face and stared at his brother with a stern look. Do you understand the meaning of light? It's nothing more than helping to save the world, isn't it? Perhaps you can't bear such a responsibility at all. Excessive expectations are just a waste of time. This is the prophecy left to me by the Father God. It's not your turn to question it. Amon's attitude completely cooled down. I'm not interested in listening to your long-winded preaching here. I will only act according to my own ideas. You are indeed seriously lacking in humanity. Maybe I should temporarily take away your authority and ability, so that you can experience life like an ordinary person. Hearing this, Amen couldn't help but smile, looking at Adam in front of him with a mocking face. Ha ha ha, humanity. Are you qualified to talk to me about humanity? Do you still have a little humanity? Adam just kept silent and didn't answer the question. Before you leave, I'll give you another word. Don't easily provoke the bottom line of the stars. Hee. Do you think I will listen to you? Amen said with disdain. I'm about to become a god along the tide of the times. You should be quiet during this time. Amen just snorted, turned around and left the church, disappearing away. My humanity has always been caring for you, my only child. Adam raised his head slightly and looked at the cross hanging under the glass in front of him, and murmured softly. ... In the Brave Bar in Backland, Leonard rarely had time to come here to kill the boring night time. Since the old man left, he easily felt lonely, and he attributed this situation to the old man's dependence. It was okay during the day, but at night, after he finished his work with the Red Gloves squad, he didn't know what to do. Occasionally talking to himself, no one could respond to him. Asta had left Backland, and Klein had been elusive, and he didn't even have a fixed position. It was undoubtedly a luxury to want to find them to chat and drink together. You should start a family. This sentence was a friendly suggestion given to him by Archbishop Anthony, saying that he was now successful in his career and it was time to consider personal issues. Start a family. The figure of the immortal witch could not stop appearing in Leonard's mind, and he almost scared him to have a stress reaction. She seemed to be still in Backland, right? Leonard had just had this thought when a familiar figure walked to the door of the bar. It was Miss Serafina in a black dress. Leonard subconsciously lowered his head, turned his back, pretended not to see anything, and drank the spicy drink in the glass silently. Is it too boring to be alone in a long night? Serafina came in from the door, facing the surprised eyes of the drinkers, and sat down next to Leonard naturally. Hee, I thought you would become mature after not seeing you for a long time, but I didn't expect you to be so simple and naive. With a chuckle, the white fingers of her right hand hooked the transparent wine glass, shaking the red wine in the glass, and the bright red lips gently opened and closed, slowly spitting out the sweetness that was enough to fascinate people. You don't need to be so vigilant. The witch is also a normal woman, and you are a normal male. Males, out of biological instinct, will naturally chase after females that exude an alluring aura. This is nothing to be ashamed of. At this moment, Serafina is like a big sister next door. Her words are serious and earnest. The suppression and escape you think are useful will only make you fall deeper and deeper into the abyss in the future. Is this the witch's usual trick of playing on people's hearts? Leonard finally spoke, his expression looking very calm. This is just a normal chat. It doesn't require any means. Moreover, we are also very sincere sometimes. In comparison, you are even more hypocritical. Ha ha. Leonard just sneered. You look unconvinced. Serafina raised her eyebrows slightly, put the wine glass in her hand on the bar, and said with a smile, "When I fall in love with a man, I will sincerely invite him to spend time with me. It's a sweet night, but if I don't like it one day, I will kick him away without hesitation. Because I am loyal to my heart and do whatever I want. And you, what about you? You obviously like her very much in your heart, but you say things you don't mean, and you don't dare to say what you want, so you can only suppress your inner thoughts to make yourself a decent person who meets the public's moral standards. Look at Backland, the city of hope. How many couples are sleeping in the same bed at night, thinking about their little lovers? They still pretend to be in love during the day. Gee, how false is this?" Leonard didn't answer, he just drank the remaining wine in the glass, then stood up to pay and left. If he stayed any longer, he would not have the confidence to remain calm. When he stood up to leave, Serafina leaned into his ear and whispered, "Do you dare to say that you have never thought of sleeping with me?" Leonard had a sullen face and left without saying a word. When he walked out of the bar door, the cool wind blowing from the street gave him some solace in his irritable heart. Delusions are inevitable for a normal person. But the reason why humans are human is that they are different from beasts and follow instinctive restraint completely. He didn't think that his restraint was wrong, nor did he think that what Serafina said was correct. He just couldn't completely calmly face the ageless witch. After hailing a carriage, Leonard returned to his home. During the time in the carriage, he had already sobered up from his drunkenness. Go to the bathroom to take a bath, then go back to your room and lie down on the bed to rest. Old man, the witch is really annoying. Leonard subconsciously whispered in his heart, but soon he came to his senses. The old man had gone far away, and he didn't know when he would come back. Haha, I think you are greedy. Bullshit. Am I that kind of person? Leonard subconsciously retorted with expletives. Wait, did it sound like an old man's voice just now? Leonard jumped up from the bed in shock. He looked left and right several times, and then whispered in his heart, "Old man, is it really you who is back? No one but me would be willing to return to your skinny body." There was still the same disgusting tone as before. Leonard was overjoyed, but he quickly became vigilant, fearing that this was Amon's way of fooling him. The alertness is pretty good, but the strength is still not that good. Old man, is it really you? After a while, Leonard gradually got used to the fact that the old man was back in his body. Old man, when did you come back into my body? Before you get into a heated conversation with that ageless witch. One thing she said is quite right. Continuing to suppress yourself will not allow you to achieve true relief and freedom. Restraint is also a kind of life practice. Leonard looked like he had seen through everything in the world. Deceiving yourself. Pales mocked and continued, "The reason why you have always been at a psychological disadvantage when facing the ageless witch is because you cannot honestly face your inner desires. Then what do you think we should do? Go to bed with her, and then wait for her to kick you away mercilessly, and you will naturally stop caring about her." Roll. Leonard's reply was concise and to the point. "I'm not kidding you, this is a good solution. Besides, do you think she will stay with you all night long if you want? Don't be stupid, they are masters at playing with people's hearts. The more impatient you are, the more they will deliberately hang you. Sparring with witches is very beneficial to growth, well, in every sense of the word." Leonard was too lazy to talk to the old man who was getting more and more ridiculous, but he still felt warm in his heart and could finally sleep well tonight. It's a pity that Amen was almost sent to the starry sky. The fallen mother goddess was like a cat that came by smell, and he happened to help Amen once. After what happened tonight, the fallen mother goddess would definitely hold on to the starry sky, and it would not be so easy to open the starry sky portal again in the future. After this failure, Amen should learn to maintain a certain respect for the stars, so that he would not mess around. Otherwise, with his bad personality that lacks humanity, he might extend his claws to Audrey, Sharon and other people who are close to him one day. For such a bad kid, he should be hurt first, so that he knows which bottom lines cannot be touched. At present, Adam is preparing to become a god, and Amen should be quiet for a while, and he should be busy digesting the magic potion of the enlightened Saint Master in his body. In the Hall of Stars, Hastur is summing up the gains tonight. Except that Aemon was not sent to the starry sky, other aspects are still in line with his expectations. The god of knowledge and wisdom was the first to jump out, indicating that the balance in his heart had begun to lean towards the stars, which was a good start. Among the other 5 true gods, the eternal sun was locked in his kingdom of God, the goddess of night had a close relationship with the goddess of earth, and the lord of storms was suspected of forming an alliance with the god of steam. Hastur seriously thought about their respective calculations and the possible direction of the future situation. In the end, he still felt very sorry for not being able to send Aemon to the starry sky. On February 31st, Backland's Yellow Church began to get busy in the early morning, summoning nearby believers to prepare for the first large-scale prayer ceremony tonight. In order to attract more believers to join the Yellow Church, they sent many people to the streets to distribute some candies and small gifts, taking this opportunity to publicize the existence of the Yellow Church to the people of Backland. And clearly told them that even if they just watched the prayer ceremony on the sidelines, they could get blessings from the gods. Is there really a blessing from the gods? Wearing a gray men's work suit, a black hat, and 2 fake mustaches, Zio was walking to a small propaganda base of the Yellow Church on the street with a curious look on his face, holding a small gift worth 2 souls in his hand. She accepted a task from the MI9 and came to investigate the monthly prayer ceremony of the newly emerged Yellow Church. After coming here, she found that the members of the newly emerged Yellow Church seemed to have an indescribable temperament. Is it the kind of life satisfaction that only people with a fulfilling life can exude? What a mess. Zio suppressed the strange thoughts in her heart, chatting with the members of the Yellow Church while observing the movements nearby. When night fell, she originally wanted to have a meal nearby, and then come back to investigate tonight's prayer ceremony. The person in charge of the Yellow Church over there has begun to distribute food for free, attracting many people to go, so she followed the crowd. When she arrived at the food distribution site, there were white bread, sausages, grilled meat strips, mashed potatoes, and a delicious sweet soup. A full portion, enough for an adult man with a normal appetite. It smelled good, the food was fresh, and even the sweet soup was generous with sugar. Zio silently tasted the free food. As she ate, she was surprised to find that such a free dinner was better than what she usually ate, not to mention the ordinary residents nearby. Furs, who was too lazy to go out, ate very little dinner. Most of the time it was fruit with some vegetable salad, and she didn't even say it was to control her weight. Fortunately, this is the West District. If it was opened in a place like the dock area, the food distribution place would have been crowded. This Yellow Church looks very rich. Zio was thinking about things while finishing the food on her plate. After eating, she put the plate back to the recycling area and walked around nearby, waiting for the prayer ceremony tonight to begin. The starry sky tonight was so bright that the light of the crimson moon did not seem as dazzling as before. Outside the gate of the Yellow Church, as it was the first time that the Yellow Church held a large-scale prayer ceremony, Pope Lisa personally held the prayer ceremony tonight. The team participating in the prayer ceremony tonight was divided into 2 sides in an orderly manner. The Pope, who was emitting a light white light and whose specific appearance was difficult to see clearly, walked at the front of the team. Zio came earlier and had a relatively forward position, probably in the middle of the team. On both sides were believers who spontaneously wore yellow clothes, making her appearance seem a little awkward. But the eyes and minds of these believers were not on her, but on the figure of the Pope who was leading the team in front. Their eyes were firm, as if they were very convinced that as long as they followed that figure, they could reach the ideal shore. The team lined up in a long dragon, first circled the Yellow Church, and then walked towards the lake behind the Yellow Church. The brilliant starlight fell, spread on the clear lake, reflecting the dreamlike starry sky. I don't know if it's an illusion, but Zio always feels that the starlight in the lake is flowing out from the depths of the lake. When the team completed a circle around the lake, the starlight in the lake seemed to be brighter than before. Then, the team continued to circle the lake. It is said that they will circle the lake 12 times in total, which takes about 4 hours in total. While no one was paying attention, Zio quietly checked the time. It was just after 8 o'clock. After completing 12 circles, it would be almost 12 o'clock. This was also the actual time for the Yellow Church to hold a prayer ceremony. The boring route of circling the lake in circles made many ordinary people who came with curiosity choose to give up. They left the team and stood about 10 meters behind, turning from followers to curious spectators. When the number of circles reached 6, more and more people left the team. Most of those who really stayed were wearing yellow clothes. They were loyal believers of the Yellow Church, and it was normal for them to persist until now. But like Zio, there were also many people with intentions mixed in the team. Zio had seen a member of the same military intelligence department in the circling team. When the circle reached 10 circles, Zio was keenly aware that something different was happening quietly. Her eyes turned from the back of the man in front of her to the lake, where the starlight was particularly strong, so strong that it seemed like a ball of light blue mist. As she circled, the starlight gradually spread from the center of the lake to the lakeside. When the 12 circles were completely completed, the team participating in the prayer ceremony was already wrapped in the starlight mist. A very comfortable feeling rose from the depths of her heart, gradually dispelling the physical fatigue caused by the boring circle. Zio was so comfortable that she wanted to close her eyes. This comfortable feeling from the depths of her heart made her whole body feel lighter, and her tense nerves were effectively relieved. When she was about to indulge in this feeling, Zio suddenly woke up again. She opened her eyes and began to look around. The surrounding Yellow Church believers all closed their eyes at this moment, enjoying this blessing that seemed to come from the gods. Zio's eyes swept around and looked at the center of the lake. The lake was as bright as the starry sky, and the starlight was particularly bright, but that was all, and there were no other different changes. The dense starlight that was about to melt did not block her vision. She looked at the crowd not far away who gave up and chose to watch, and wondered. Why could they still choose to watch so calmly? Couldn't they see that this place was shrouded in dense starlight? Only those who insisted on walking 12 circles could enjoy this blessing from the gods. When Zio was still wondering, a neat, melodious chanting began to sound. Along the shore, cutting through the clouds, the twin suns sink into the lake. Long shadows fall there, the wonderful night when the black star rises. The wonderful moon running in the night. The yellow ragged clothes flutter in the wind. The song disappears silently there. When the soul no longer sings. When the tears no longer flow. The Lord of the starry sea in the distant starry sky. The nameless one of chaos and formlessness. He will come in the expectation of thousands of believers. This is the most important prayer poem of the Yellow Church. Zio has seen it in the intelligence news given by Military Intelligence 9, but it is the first time to be in the scene and experience this kind of pious prayer in person. She can clearly feel that her heart is touched, and she can't help but want to join in the ceremony of singing the prayer poem. In the end, she still covered her mouth tightly with her right hand to prevent herself from humming along. When her mind was fluctuating, she suddenly found that she could no longer integrate into the feeling just now. The so-called brilliant starlight in front of her also dissipated into nothingness at this moment. What appeared in front of him at this moment was just a calm lake without waves. The starry sky reflected in the center of the lake was still beautiful, but there was no longer the mysterious and strange feeling just now. And those believers who devoutly believed in the King in Yellow were still immersed in their own world of faith. The blessing from the gods seemed to be nourishing their bodies and souls. Each of them had a calm and peaceful expression on their faces, with a gentle smile on their lips. Shu, who had exited the wonderful state, did not choose to leave. She and the crowd of onlookers outside quietly waited for the next prayer ceremony. The Pope, wearing a crown of stars, was the most eye-catching in every move. They faced the starry sky reflected in the lake and worshipped devoutly. Their eyes flashed with the light of firm faith, and their bright eyes were not much inferior to the stars in the sky. With their devout worship and call, the light of the bright starry sky above their heads was really let in. When the light of the stars was evenly sprinkled on the lake, shining brightly, and when the breeze blew, it even rippled with layers of sparkling ripples. The crushed starlight was even more brilliant, and the environment around the lake also became brighter. In the depths of the lake, the light from the starry sky above continued to gather, as if it was nurturing something. When the last prayer ceremony began, a figure formed purely by the lake light slowly emerged in the depths of the lake. His whole body was shining, transparent and illusory, looking like a shadow, but it was real in the field of vision. This scene was not only seen by the devout believers, but also by Zio and the onlookers outside. Zio even heard the people around him breathing rapidly and whispering tremblingly because they were too shocked. "Look, there is really a black star in the lake." Someone seemed to have discovered some incredible secret, and regardless of the solemn and quiet atmosphere here, he made an uncontrollable exclamation. Zio's eyes followed the lake surface, and saw that under the guidance of the light and shadow, a black star was slowly rising from the depths of the lake. The black star looked particularly different in the starry sky reflected on the lake. Zio endured the shock in his heart, looked curiously for a while, and then suddenly looked up at the starry sky above his head. The starry sky was brilliant, but there was no black star shining. But deep in the lake, there was indeed a black star slowly rising. Is this the prophecy of the Yellow Church? Black stars only exist in the reflected starry sky. What a wonderful phenomenon. When the black star rose to the position where it should be, the illusory light and shadow began to dissipate, as if his mission had been completed. The light and shadow dissipated, and the prayer ceremony also ushered in the final prelude. The starry sky reflected on the lake gradually returned to its previous calmness, the bright starlight gradually dissipated, and everything returned to tranquility again. The prayer ceremony was over. Under the leadership of the Pope, the prayer team returned along the original route, and Zio followed the team back. Back in front of the gate of the Yellow Church, the people of the Yellow Church also prepared a church meal for the people who participated in the prayer ceremony tonight to enjoy for free. Zio looked at the time on the pocket watch she carried with her. It was already 1:40 in the evening. She did not stay here to enjoy the food, but stopped a carriage to return to her family's villa. This was part of the property that the Lowen royal family had compensated the Dyer family. After a simple arrangement, she and Furs moved here to live. Because she didn't want others to affect her life, she and Furs didn't hire maids or workers to help with housework. Bang, bang, bang. After returning home, Hugh began to knock on Furs's door. Hugh. Furs was wearing a light blue pajamas, her hair was messy, and her eyes were flashing with anger. "You didn't sleep in the middle of the night and had to wake me up. Hee, I must have something important to disturb your sleep. You'd better give me a reason not to be angry." Furs followed Hugh to the living room and sat down. "Do you know the Yellow Church? The Yellow Church that was built not long ago in the West District? Well, I participated in their monthly prayer ceremony tonight and gained a lot." Furs curled her lips and said, "I'm not interested in these things." What if this matter may be related to the stars? When mentioning the stars, Hugh couldn't help but lower her voice. The prayer ceremony of the Yellow Church tonight really made her feel as if she was praying to the stars. Whether it is the vast starry sky, the bright starlight, or the content in the prayer poem, and the rising black star. These all seem to have a deep connection with the stars. The starry sky should belong to the kingdom of the stars. Furs sat upright and listened to Zio's description and analysis silently, and he couldn't help feeling a little strange in his heart. "Are you hesitating whether to report the matter of the Yellow Church to the stars tonight?" Zio nodded and smiled embarrassedly. "You know, I'm afraid to meet the stars alone, so you should come, you have more experience. You are a believer of the stars." Furs stretched out a finger and poked Zio's eyebrows, and said with a little blame, "The stars have never brought anger to us. He is definitely a friendly secret existence. Anyway, I'm a little scared." Zio shrank his neck slightly. "Leave this matter to me." Furs still agreed to Zio's request. There is no small matter when it comes to the stars. This is the consciousness that a qualified believer should have. After returning to her room, Furs prayed to the stars and explained what she had discovered tonight. Everything is under the watchful eyes of the stars. Furs only got this sentence in the end. She was stunned for a while before muttering, "Do the stars think that such a thing is too insignificant, so they deliberately reiterate this sentence? This is because he is not happy with me for disturbing him because of such a small matter." Furs shuddered and quickly shrank back to the bed. South Wales, inside the castle. Let's continue. Asta gently pressed Sharon's soft body, and his breathing gradually became heavier. "No." Sharon blushed and pushed Asta away from her, turned sideways, and turned her back to Asta. She glanced at the wall clock on the wall. It was 3:52 in the middle of the night. Listening to the sighs and burning eyes coming from behind, she silently buried her hot cheeks in the soft pillow. In the early morning, when it was just dawn, Asta got up early. There was no way Sharon got up earlier than him. After taking Azishara, who also got up early, out for a walk, Asta came back to enjoy today's breakfast. After breakfast, he sat in the living room and looked at the latest newspaper delivered today. The Kingdom of Lowen assists the Kingdom of Fanapotter and works together to resist the barbarian invasion from the southern continent. This news occupied a whole large page. The Kingdom of Lowen has officially joined the war, and the reinforcements will march from Dissy County and Sivlis County, which border the territory of the Kingdom of Fanet. The Kingdom of Mashi, sandwiched in the middle, has not made any official reports on the invasion of the southern continent. It is estimated that even if it is released, the Kingdom of Lowen will not care too much. The territory of the Kingdom of Mashi is only as big as Dissy County. It is already difficult to protect itself, let alone provide assistance. Being able to gather some material donations is already worthy of the neighboring Kingdom of Fanet. After all, the Kingdom of Fanet has tried to annex the Kingdom of Mashi many times before, but it was not so obvious. Master, when will we return to Backland? Bored Ashera came over and raised a little face full of expectation. Oh, do you miss Backland? I don't have any friends here to play with. How about letting you live with Miss Audrey temporarily? Really? Ashera's eyes lit up instantly, but soon dimmed again, and shook her head and said, I can't do anything to make Miss Sharon sad. So good. Hastert touched Azishara's head. Azishara was silent for a while, and soon cheered up. She stood up and lowered her voice and said, Master, will you and Miss Sharon have a baby? That's what I read in the book. Ashera hurriedly added, Master, you asked me to read more books when I have nothing to do. This is a really good question. You can go and ask Sharon. Hastert looked up at Sharon, who was standing in the corridor on the second floor and could clearly hear Azishara's question. He is currently only sequence 3. As long as he and Sharon work hard to make a baby, there is still a high probability of natural conception in theory. But he is not very sure. Although he is currently only sequence 3, his status is a star, and it is basically impossible to have a normal child. If he really wanted a child, he could directly extract some of Sharon's extraordinary characteristics and then combine them with his own extraordinary characteristics. Through this artificial intervention, a child belonging to the two of them could be born. He could also separate some of his extraordinary characteristics and mold them into humans like the ancient sun god, giving birth to a natural mythical creature like Amun. In fact, if you think about it carefully, it's not bad to have no children. This is a mysterious world, and immortal life doesn't need successors. And when the doomsday comes in the future, no one knows what terrible situation will be, so it's better not to let the child suffer in this world. I dare not. Ashera shook her head like a rattle. She didn't dare to provoke Sharon easily. Continue practicing calligraphy in the afternoon. Sharon's calm voice came from upstairs, making Ashera's petite body tremble. The back of her little hand gently wiped the tears that had not yet flowed from the corner of her eyes. It's true that one thing can conquer another. Azishara's erratic personality can only be controlled by Sharon. Hastert ignored Ashera's plea for help and just told Ashera to go out and play while it was still morning. Ashera thought about it and hurried out. Butler Neil quickly asked the two maids to follow her. Sharon on the second floor glanced at Hastert, who was sitting in the living room and reading the newspaper carefully. She turned around and went back to her room without disturbing him. When she returned to the room, Hastert had already appeared in her room and was looking at her thoughtfully. Sharon, there is something I need your cooperation with. No. Sharon refused directly. She naturally understood what Hastert was talking about. This is a very serious scientific problem. If we can solve it, it will definitely benefit those who come after us. You are not that kind of person. Sometimes, I also want to be a good person, leave something for this world, and make some contributions. Unable to resist Hastert's earnest words, Sharon slowly walked over. Don't worry, it's still daytime. Asta dispelled Sharon's last concerns, placed a chair directly opposite him, and began to talk about making children, and explained some modern knowledge about men and women to Sharon. It's difficult. Sharon finally gave such an answer. Natural conception is basically unattainable for high-sequence extraordinary people. Generally, if the parents of extraordinary people give birth to the next generation naturally, it is basically at the low sequence. After being promoted to sequence 4, the parents of both parties may be on different extraordinary paths, and the forms of their mythological creatures are very different. They can be regarded as two different species. There is often reproductive isolation between different species. This is very simple scientific knowledge. If only one of the couple is a beyonder and the other is an ordinary person, then even if they become high-sequence beyonders, they may still be able to conceive naturally and give birth to the next generation. The next generation of babies will inevitably carry the beyonder characteristics of the same beyonder pathway. Depending on the strength of this inherited beyonder characteristic, the baby may be born with sequence 9, sequence 8, or sequence 7, or even higher. But such a baby, when he is born, must seal the beyonder characteristics in his body in time, because the newborn baby's consciousness and weak body cannot bear the power of this beyonder characteristic. If it is an abnormal conception, then any kind of monster is possible. In the past so many years, there have been too many such examples. Do you know the legendary giant? Yes. Then do you know the giant king Ormir and his queen, the harvest goddess Omibella? I only know the giant king. Sharon gradually listened seriously. At first, she really thought Hasta was just teasing her with this question, but she didn't expect him to really think about it seriously. Does he really want to have his own children? The giant king and the goddess of harvest are both high-sequence beyonders, and even gods. They have also given birth to their own offspring. Hasta thought for a while and said, they have 2 children in total. The eldest son is the god of dawn, and the second son is the god of glory. Sharon looked at Hasta in silence. Why did Hasta speak so easily about such ancient knowledge, and there was no reverence for gods in his words? Did they conceive naturally, or did they combine their respective beyonder characteristics and use beyonder abilities to give birth to the next generation? Hasta was really interested in this question. The ancient sun god was alone, and Adam and Amen were definitely not conceived by him and other beings. But the giant king and the goddess of harvest are husband and wife, and the elf king and the elf queen of the elf clan are also partners. When they gave birth to the next generation, did they use beyonder abilities to create it, or did they conceive naturally over a long period of time? In addition, the reproduction between the giants, the elves, and other races can't all use beyonder abilities to give birth to the next generation, right? This is obviously unrealistic. They are basically beyonders, and there must be couples of high-sequence beyonders who naturally give birth to offspring. That is to say, in ancient times, high-sequence extraordinary people could give birth to the next generation through natural conception. The ancient history has been buried. I think you can no longer find the correct answer. That's not necessarily true. Hasta smiled and said, do you know the Forsaken Land of God? I've heard of it. There are still cities inherited from the giant age, living giants. A trace of surprise flashed in Sharon's eyes. Living giants and ancient cities that are still inherited made her want to find out. But she quickly restrained her thoughts and said in a serious tone, it's very dangerous. I know the way to the Forsaken Land of God, please accompany me. It's very dangerous. Sharon repeated what she had just said, and her voice was a little heavier. You are looking for the extraordinary characteristics of the Sequence 3 Silent Disciple, and the Forsaken Land of God just has what you need. Zaratul has a secret puppet, which is the Sequence 3 Silent Disciple, which is exactly what Sharon needs. Now Zaratul has gone to the Forsaken Land of God to find the extraordinary characteristics of the mysterious servant. I don't want you to take risks. Sharon looked at Hasta calmly until Hasta agreed not to go to the God-forsaken land at this stage. She relaxed her expression and said, on the extraordinary path, too fast promotion is not a good thing. We are still young. At her age, she has already been promoted to Sequence 4, which is a terrifying speed. Her teacher also specifically told her not to be so anxious to be promoted to Sequence 3. She should experience life more, enrich and increase her spiritual level, and then slowly climb to a higher level. Asta's promotion speed is definitely faster than hers, which is very abnormal. Backlund, after receiving the second psychological treatment from Miss Justice, Klein gradually recovered. He has learned from Will that Mr. Hester is currently in South Wiltshire. If he wants to talk to him, he must go there in person. Has he guessed the real purpose of my visit to him this time? Klein couldn't help but have an absurd idea in his mind. Thinking carefully, he felt that this was unlikely. Even if Hester is a time traveler like him, how can Hester, who did not go above the gray fog, determine that he has known the secret of time travel? Unless he could be like the stars, standing above the starry sky, watching everything. Klein suppressed this thought and glanced at the familiar Backlund. He knew that he needed to leave here again and go to various places to play the role of a trickster. At around 5 o'clock in the afternoon, Klein invited Benson and Melissa to a sumptuous dinner in a new identity, in the name of a friend who would leave Backlund for a short time. It was not difficult to contact Benson and Melissa. Knowing their personalities, Klein could easily become good friends with them. They didn't contact each other much on weekdays, and only occasionally invited them to dinner. Once, Benson even invited him to his home to enjoy a dinner. The familiar taste of the food made him almost reluctant to leave. At around 10 o'clock in the evening, Klein changed into the identity of the rich man Don Tangstein and went to the Brave Bar to chat with Leonard. This was the information revealed to him by Will, saying that Leonard would definitely be in the Brave Bar tonight. He could tell from Will's mysterious tone that something unusual must have happened to Leonard recently. When Klein walked into the door of the Brave Bar, he saw Leonard sitting at the bar, drinking alone. He didn't look very happy, his beard was a little untidy, his eyes were melancholy, and sometimes he showed a firm look. He should be hesitating about something, wavering between wanting and not wanting. Klein roughly guessed his mental activity at the moment based on his understanding of Leonard's personality. In order not to affect Leonard, and Will's mysterious tone, as if he was going to watch a good show, he didn't want to miss this opportunity to observe. Klein deliberately found a blind spot where he could see Leonard but Leonard couldn't see him. About an hour later, Leonard, who had drunk 5 or 6 glasses of Southwell beer alone, finally waited for his guest tonight. A young and beautiful lady in a black dress, she exuded a temperament of softness and wisdom. Especially her eyes, clear, bright and clean, but also like a truly indifferent after going through many hardships. Hey, this person looks more and more familiar. Klein couldn't help but recall the last time he attended the Yellow Church's founding ceremony. The representative from the witch sect seemed to be this woman in black. After completely confirming the woman's body, Klein couldn't help but take a breath. Is Leonard dating a witch? Could he not see that there was something wrong with this woman? Or did he also want to taste the taste of a witch? What Will was looking forward to was Leonard's date with a witch. Klein thought a lot in an instant, drank a sip of wine silently, and waited for Leonard's next move. A witch, and she is the best among witches. I wonder if Leonard can handle it. In order to avoid attracting attention, Klein's eyes did not always fall on Leonard. He only pretended to glance casually when he looked back from a distance. Chatting, especially chatting with the opposite sex, has always been where Leonard excelled. Perhaps it was the poet's unique unrestrained and romantic character that made Leonard particularly attractive in front of the opposite sex. Even though he looks very young, he has a strong sense of story. In a normal conversation, he usually takes the initiative, but this time, he seemed a little helpless and unable to resist. Sometimes there was an expression of embarrassment on his face, and sometimes there was a look of relief. Leonard must know the identity of the other witch, and he has some idea or purpose towards this witch. Could it be that he sacrificed his sex life in the line of duty? Klein thought with amusement in his heart that since Leonard knew the other party's identity, he didn't need to worry about Leonard's safety and could just concentrate on eating. The only bad thing was that the distance between them and the inherently noisy environment of the bar meant that Klein could only hear their intermittent conversations and was unable to form complete sentences. He could only analyze Leonard's mental activity at the moment by reading his expression, and then guess what they were talking about. It's fun to eat melon like this occasionally. The two chatted for almost half an hour. Leonard obviously offended the other party. In the end, the other party left alone with a cold face. Leonard quietly slumped on the seat. After a long time, he showed a look of relief. After taking a big sip of beer, Leonard gradually became energetic. He shouted in his heart, "Old man, I blame you for your bad idea, saying that only after personal experience can you completely let go. Hey, don't you think this is interesting? Okay, old man, you admit that you deliberately made fun of me. I don't deny that I have this intention, but the path I have guided you is not wrong." Leonard just sneered at these remarks and made no comment. "Didn't you feel relieved when she exposed your shameless thoughts and finally left with a cold face?" Quote. This time Leonard didn't refute. Although the idea he had tonight was a bit shameless, in the end he did feel more relaxed than ever before. "Old man, this is the last time," Leonard emphasized in his heart. Once a story begins, it must have an ending before it can be considered complete. "Old man, what do you mean?" Leonard didn't hear the old man's words anymore. When he was about to get up and leave, Don downstairs, Klein's friend, walked in his direction. "2 more drinks." Leonard sat back down and ordered 2 glasses of the absinthe he ordered just now. He placed 1 glass on his right hand and said softly, "It's such a rare visitor that I meet you here." Klein came over and sat in the empty seat next to Leonard. He picked up the wine glass with an obvious bitter taste and said calmly, "I came here specifically to see you tonight." Leonard couldn't help but feel a little thump in his heart. "When did you come?" "While you were still alone." Quote. Leonard wanted to curse, "Are you old guys so boring?" He actually hid on purpose to watch him. "I just want to chat with a witch, right?" "A very interesting conversation," Klein said deliberately. Quote. Leonard was completely silent, but soon he hummed, "What on earth are you doing here tonight?" Seeing Leonard forcefully change the subject, Klein said leisurely, "Oh, give your good friend Klein a few words." "Hey, you're so busy, do you still remember that you have a friend like me?" "Ahem, why is this resentment so great?" Klein felt a little weak for no reason. "I'm just helping to carry the message." Klein smiled kindly and said, "He will be traveling far away and may not return to Backland for a long time. I hope you can help take care of his relatives." "That's it." Leonard curled his lips and said, "Is there no other more valuable content? For example, if he dies outside, where should I go to dig out the wealth he stored during his lifetime? By the way, I should also leave a copy of his bank account password. It is better than him taking his hard-earned wealth into the coffin." Quote. "Tisk, did you take gunpowder tonight?" He spoke so irritably. It was typical of him becoming angry due to embarrassment. It seemed that his mood was far less calm than he appeared at the moment. What is his relationship with that witch? What specifically did the two of them talk about tonight? Klein was very interested, but the most important thing at the moment was to calm Leonard's mood first. "I think he will definitely make arrangements for his posthumous affairs. Maybe he has already written an email that will be automatically sent after his death, asking you, a good friend, to help him arrange all his posthumous affairs." Quote. Leonard was silent, and after a while he sighed. "Is the mission he is going out on this time dangerous? Aren't we always walking on the edge of danger? What a bastard." Leonard suddenly cursed and drank a full glass of wine, the corners of his eyes turning red. Klein was moved and chuckled. "Don't be so pessimistic, he has always had good luck." "Luck? Sooner or later it will run out. It's too unreliable." "Maybe the goddess of fate has always favored him." Leonard's heart moved slightly. He thought that Klein was the favored one of the goddess of night. Even if he was out, he might be safer than staying in Backland. The two chatted briefly for a few more sentences, and Klein left in a carriage, ending the conversation tonight. Leonard's mouth twitched as he watched him go away. Before leaving, Dwayne Tangsty solemnly reminded him, "The taste of witches is good, but don't get carried away. Old man, this is all caused by you. Hee. If you don't want to, how can I, a disabled person, instigate? Ahem. How can I decide your will?" Leonard didn't say anything else, but secretly rejoiced in his heart that it was fortunate that the people who came tonight were not Klein or Hasta, otherwise he would really be ashamed to see people. It was indeed a shame to see people. In the Hall of Stars, Hasta also satisfied his desire to eat melons. He has always been paying attention to the follow-up story of Leonard and the Immortal Witch. His intuition tells him that the story between the two is still going on, and it is far from the time to write the ending. This time, he still relies on Will's perspective to fully see the new story of Leonard and the immortal witch. This is very interesting. After eating the melon, Hasta put his mind on other things, and continued to use the authority of the Hall of Stars to let his light incarnation show miracles in various regions and guide those who are in urgent need of help. His current main activities are concentrated in the kingdom of Fanaport and the conquered Fasak Empire. On the land where war is rampant, there are people who are confused and need help everywhere. In the vast starry sky above people's heads, the brightest natural celestial body besides the sun and the moon is Venus. Venus, also often called Taibai by people, is an artistic creation based on this prototype in ancient mythology. There is also the great poet Li Bai. It is said that his birth is also quite unusual. His mother dreamed of Taibai Venus entering her arms at night, so she named Li Bai Taibai. This is a wild history and cannot be verified. When Venus appears in the east in the morning, it is also called the morning star, and the star. When it appears in the western sky in the evening, it is called the Changjiang star and the evening star. The morning star, this is the direction that the sequence of the morning star master should play. But the real morning star not only represents the lucky star, it is also called the evil star. Sometimes it appears in the eastern sky, sometimes it shines in the west, and its unpredictable movement trajectory gives rise to fear. For many ancient people, it is both a metaphor for death and a symbol of resurrection. It is the Aztec god Quetzalcoatl, who can resurrect the extinct people with the skeleton stolen from the kingdom of the dead and regenerate with the blood given by this god. The ancient Phoenicians and Jews believed that it was the incarnation of the devil and an evil star. The ancient Mexicans were also afraid of Venus. They always closed the doors and windows at dawn to block its light. They believed that the light of Venus would bring disease. Although these are idealistic concepts imagined by the ancients who did not understand the laws of celestial motion, they also explained it from the side. The morning star symbolizes not only the beautiful and bright side, but also the star of disaster that can bring disaster. In the sequence 4 Lost Hometown, there was a foreigner's fate, which can also be called the extraordinary ability of moving natural disasters. This is exactly the unknown side of the corresponding sequence 3 Enlightened Saint Master. Light and disaster go hand in hand, hope and chaos coexist. These are Hasta's new insights into the Enlightened Saint Master sequence, and they also give him a new understanding of this mysterious world full of chaos. On this extraordinary path, chaos and madness are its original background, and the extraordinary ability that is mastered by chance is just an inconspicuous part of it. And now, a new disaster will begin to spread from the sea. On the vast ocean, a ghost ship was sailing at high speed. In the captain's room, Captain Alger Wilson was frowning and looking at the sea map in front of him. The last time the Storm Church forced him to attend the founding ceremony of the Pirate Kingdom, he couldn't spend a peaceful year on the shore. Not long after the new year, he was given another important task, organizing a pirate group to plunder together and cut off the sea transportation line from the southern continent to the Fanaport Kingdom. This is to let him participate in the war between the north and the south. In order to support the battle situation of the Fanaport Kingdom, the Storm Church also sent its own personnel to cooperate with the Navy of Daisy County to block the transport fleet of the southern continent near the coast of the Fanaport Kingdom. It can be said that it fully uses its power on the sea to support the Fanaport Kingdom as much as possible. It's a bit difficult. Alger frowned and stared at the sea area of Hakata Port. According to the new task given to him by the Storm Church, he needs to wait for the right time near Hakata Port and then plunder the material transport fleet from the southern continent. At this moment, his Blue Avenger was only 2 days away from Hakata Port. To be on the safe side, he invited 2 other pirate groups to join the robbery as the captain of the Blue Avenger. 2 days later, Alger led his fleet to Hakata Port. What surprised him was that there were more than a dozen pirate groups of different sizes gathered in this small port. After a little intelligence in the tavern, he knew that they were also here to rob the transport fleet of the southern continent. This should be the pirate group that the Storm Church usually supports and remotely controls. This time, they really spent a lot of money. Alger drank the slightly bitter buckwheat wine silently. After waiting for about 5 days, the pirates responsible for the front line found that nearly 20 fleets from the southern continent were pretending to be merchant ships and were about to pass through the nearby waters. As soon as this news was passed back to Hecata port, all the pirate groups waiting here immediately became excited, and they all took their crews and drove the well-maintained pirate ships to intercept. Seeing this, Alger was not in a hurry, but deliberately lagged behind the main force for a distance, letting them test the water first. He didn't want to be the first person to try it, even though he might eat a mouthful of oil, but there was also a high probability of choking to death. The pirates acted very quickly. More than a dozen pirate groups drove nearly 100 pirate ships of different shapes to surround the fleet from the South Continent. They ignored the South Continent fleet's attempt to bribe for passage and directly opened fire to rob. Facing the fierce pirates, the 20 ships carrying cargo from the South Continent were no match at all. Just when it was dangerous, there were high-sequence extraordinary people in the South Continent fleet who stood up to turn the tide. Alger saw from afar that the sea area where the battle was going on ahead was suddenly shrouded in a cold black fog. The black fog was wriggling like a black viscous liquid. Ghosts that only appeared in the middle of the night crawled out of the black fog and began to frantically attack nearby pirate ships. Whenever a pirate died at the hands of a ghost, a new ghost crawled out of the pirate's body. The ghosts that were difficult to eliminate soon helped the fleet of the southern continent to reverse their decline and gradually gain the upper hand. At this time, a surging wind blew, lifting the creeping black fog and blowing the ghost's body into pieces. Then a huge wave rose on the calm sea, which was 10 feet high and hit fiercely. The extraordinary person who could manipulate the power of the sea in this way could only be a member of the Storm Church. Someone deliberately hid his identity in the pirate group to ensure that this action was foolproof. The high-sequence extraordinary people on both sides began to fight desperately. In order not to be affected, Alger first let his pirate group retreat 10 nautical miles, and then he took action after the battle in front was over. In the end, the extraordinary people of the Storm Church won, because Alger saw through the telescope that the surviving pirates were cheering excitedly. With the result, Alger also drove the Blue Revenge to share a piece of the pie. When he met some small pirate groups that returned with a full load, he didn't mind robbing the pirates. Anyway, in this sea, only the survivors can speak. A few days later, the news of the South Continent transport fleet being robbed by pirates spread, and the Star Sea Kingdom issued a notice that any pirate group that joined the Star Sea Kingdom was not allowed to participate in the Civil War. But on the sea, the newly emerged Star Sea Kingdom's control over the pirates was not as good as the Storm Church, especially those small and medium-sized pirate groups. But after a few days, many Avengers from the South Continent appeared on the sea. They hunted pirates everywhere on the sea with extremely cruel means. Then the young man who was once called the King of the Sea reappeared on the sea and led a fleet to target the Storm Church. All this made the already chaotic sea even more terrifying. Alger wanted to drive the Blue Revenge to the shore quickly, return to the land, and avoid this sea dispute. But the development of the situation was far beyond his imagination, and even the Storm Church could not have expected it. Pirate groups continued to stand up and accuse the Storm Church of doing a series of evil things by remotely controlling the major pirate groups in recent years. Originally, these accusations were just trivial matters to the Storm Church, and they didn't even bother to respond. However, the young pirate king seemed to have a different extraordinary ability. He actually made a list of pirate groups controlled by the Storm Church. And the list was accurately delivered to every pirate captain overnight. Alger and his Blue Revenge were also on the list, which clearly stated that he was a believer of the Lord of Storms, and even wrote down what position he held in the Church of Storms. This frightened Alger so much that cold sweat ran down his back, and he hurriedly drove the Blue Revenge back to land. He knew that the sea was about to set off a bloody frenzy. Compared to the fact that the Church of Storms remotely controlled the pirate group, the pirates hated those brothers who usually scolded the Church of Storms with them, but they turned out to be devout believers of the Lord of Storms. The shame of such betrayal can only be washed away by blood. At this time, the Star Sea Kingdom also stood up and pointed the spearhead at the Church of Storms, and ordered the hunting of these pirate groups controlled by the Church of Storms. For a time, the whole sea was boiling again, and all the pirate groups that appeared on the list became the targets of the major pirate groups. Alger ran faster, and when the sea was the most chaotic, he hurriedly landed from a port in Dacey County, Lowen Kingdom. At the port, the Blue Revenge had only appeared for an hour when many pirates came to hunt him down. Fortunately, he rarely showed his true strength on weekdays, and relied on his extraordinary strength far superior to that of ordinary pirates to easily solve the trouble. But he did not dare to stay any longer, and left the port overnight and took the steam train back to Backland. It was not until he was about to arrive in Backland that he received the retreat order from the Storm Church. Alger's mouth twitched, and finally suppressed the uncomfortable mood in his heart. After returning to Backland, he hurried to the Holy Wind Church to report. He was not punished for his early evacuation. On the contrary, because of the incident in Bodo Port and his previous merits, he officially became a bishop of the Storm Church. If it were before, Alger might still be very happy. After all, this was the position he had always pursued, but now he felt deeply afraid of this promotion. The Storm Church probably suffered heavy losses in manpower, so it valued him so much. Sure enough, 2 days later, Alger was rewarded by the Storm Church and appointed as the Cardinal of the Passu Island area. Alger felt his scalp tingling. Passu Island is an island located in front of the Storm Abyss. It is the outpost of the Storm Church headquarters. If the situation in the sea gradually deteriorates, Passu Island will be a strategic place for the pirates to attack the Storm Church headquarters. Isn't it obvious that they want him to go to Passu Island as cannon fodder? Alger responded with ecstasy on the surface, but he was thinking about the appropriate escape plan in his heart. He must not go to Passu Island, otherwise he would not even know how he died in the future. Don't worry about the journey. The former Archbishop of Backland, the God Singer Snake, will return to the Storm Abyss with you this time. The kind and caring voice made Alger only try to force a smile. This God Singer Snake is at least a powerful extraordinary person of Sequence 4. This time he was transferred back from Backland, which shows that the Storm Church headquarters has begun to prepare for possible bad situations in the future. With his current strength, it is difficult to slip away from the eyes of a high-sequence strongman. And he has no intention of leaving the Storm Church at present. Alger was depressed, but he still raised his head and looked at the Singer of God who was walking towards him with the expectation of a pilgrimage. He wore a black soft hat and a black robe embroidered with storm symbols. He was an old man with extremely serious silver eyes. Alger had heard rumors about this Singer of God. He was often late at critical moments, causing things to become uncontrollable tragedies. Perhaps he could use this to get himself out of it, so as not to go to Passu Island and be dragged into the war. The schedule was very tight. Alger only stayed in Backland for 5 days in total. He and other members of the Storm Church, led by the Lord God Singer, took a steam train to arrive at the Poonan port in South Wiltshire, and then took a boat to the Storm Abyss. As for why they did not go directly to the Storm Abyss through the more convenient way of the spirit world or the travel portal, the explanation within the church is that every trip to the Storm Abyss is a pilgrimage. If the Storm Abyss can be reached directly through the travel portal at will, it will inevitably lose its mystery and sacredness. In the few days since arriving in South Wiltshire, new news came from the battlefield of the Fanetport Kingdom. As the situation on the sea became more and more chaotic, the reinforcements from the South Continent fell into a short pause, which forced the South Continent Army, which was in full swing, to temporarily suspend the offensive and raise necessary military supplies on the spot. This allowed the Fanetport Kingdom to quickly recover its blood and establish a line of defense with the reinforcements from the Lowen Kingdom to deal with the next offensive. If it turns into a protracted war, then the final winner must be the alliance between the Fanetport Kingdom and the Lowen Kingdom. Therefore, in this war, the actions of the Storm Church are extremely important. Once the Storm Church loses its control over the sea, the Fanetport Kingdom will face a more tragic war. The more he understands the importance of the Storm Church, the more uneasy Alger feels. Unlike those simple believers who think that going to the Storm Abyss is an honor, he has a longer-term vision. Because the greater the importance of the Storm Church in this war, the more terrible the attacks it will attract. This list incident is just a warm-up, and the real storm is about to sweep across the entire sea. Arriving safely in South Wales, Alger knew that he had to seize the time to find a way to escape. Once he sailed out from Punning Port, he would lose the possibility of leaving. He has already made a suitable plan in his mind based on his own situation. At present, his identity has been exposed and he has become one of the pirates' must-kill targets. He can use this to create an attack on himself, and then escape by pretending to die, or be seriously injured and missing. In this way, he naturally does not have to follow the Lord God Singer to go out to sea on a ship to participate in the upcoming sea war. But he still had a problem to solve, which was who to ask to cooperate with him in directing this play. If he just deliberately revealed his own information to the pirates, it would not necessarily attract the pirates to hunt him, and the pirates' strength was uneven. If they were too weak, it would be difficult for them to even see him. So he needed a teammate who could be trusted and cooperated with, preferably a pirate. The only one who met these conditions was Mr. World, Gairman Sparrow, who was a famous bounty pirate on the sea. And he was very strong, so even if he encountered the Singer of God, he could leave safely. After formulating all the details, when he fell asleep at night, Alger quietly stayed alone, and then prayed devoutly to Mr. Fool in his heart, asking him to help him convey his request to Mr. World. Above the gray fog, Klein listened to Mr. Hanged Man's request silently, with a slightly strange look on his face. In order to get away, Mr. Hanged Man actually asked the world to pretend to assassinate him. It was amazing that he could come up with such a method. It can only be said that Mr. Hanged Man is worthy of being the most conspiratorial member of the Tarot Club. Klein could only go offline and use the identity of Gairman Sparrow to shoot a video agreeing to the deal, and then threw it to Alger, who was waiting anxiously. In the hotel, Alger got an accurate answer, and a big stone fell from his heart. Now he just needed to wait for Mr. World to come nearby, and create an opportunity for himself to be alone, and then he could finish this play. I hope that the Lord God Singer is really as rumored, and he is half a beat slower in everything. Assassinating Mr. Hanged Man is a very interesting action. Klein, who was already in South Wales, changed his original appearance of Don Tangsty and restored his appearance of the famous bounty pirate Gairman Sparrow. He came to South Wales this time to find Mr. Ostad to confirm his guess in his heart, so he happened to help Mr. Hanged Man perform a play. The best time to act is near Pennine Port, so that the God Singer will choose to go out to sea by boat first after weighing the pros and cons, and he can't be given too much reaction time. Klein thought of a general action plan and went to Pennine Port first. When Alger and his party arrived at Pennine Port, he had arrived a day earlier. The communication between the two was through Mr. Fool's grey fog platform, which was very hidden and not discovered. Soon, the day before he went to board the ship, Alger found an excuse to buy some items and started to act alone for a short time. When he was about to walk from the alley to the street, Gairman Sparrow, who had been waiting for a long time, attacked him with a grin, and an air bullet shot fiercely at his back. Alger dodged to the side, and his clothes on his back were shattered, leaving a scar that looked very scary but was only a shallow wound. Blood flowed from his back, and Alger rushed to the street in a hurry so that more people could see the fact that he was being hunted. At the same time, he shouted, "Mad Gairman, you are here to kill me too." Such a chase in the street naturally attracted the attention of passers-by. People from the Church of Storms heard the movement and hurried over. As for the Singer of God, he was sitting in a tea restaurant enjoying afternoon tea until someone came. When the members of the Church of Storms came to inform him, he took the last sip of tea, got up and left. When the commotion became considerable, Alger followed the pre-planned escape route and jumped into the river on the outside of the street. Bloody flowers appeared from the water, and the whole person disappeared. In order to attract the attention of the Church of Storms and buy enough time for Mr. Hanged Man to escape, Gairman Sparrow pretended to be searching slowly along both sides of the river. He didn't leave in a hurry until the Singer of God arrived. Snake, the Singer of God, glanced at the blood-stained river, snorted coldly, and chased after the murderer Gairman. Although he controlled the strong wind and was very fast, he struggled for a long time in the face of the strange methods of the magician, and was still escaped by the bounty pirate Gairman. To no avail, Snake could only return to the river and let the Church of Storms members begin searching for Alger's whereabouts, but until sunset, they saw no sign of Alger again. No body was found, which is also good news. Snake felt a little more relaxed. The followers of the Lord of Storms would not drown in a small river. He guessed that Alger had escaped along the river and was looking for a hidden place to hide and recover from his injuries. But soon, his brows furrowed. The ship would go out to sea tomorrow morning. This was a time that had been set in advance. You can entrust local Storm Church personnel to help with search and rescue. Snake quickly came up with an idea. Early the next morning, they still couldn't find Alger's whereabouts, so they could only entrust it to the local Church of Storms, and then take a boat out to sea to the Abyss of Storms. After seeing the ship belonging to the Church of Storms going out to sea with his own eyes, Alger, who had been hiding for a whole night, truly breathed a sigh of relief. "Is your back injured?" Herman came behind him and looked at his bandaged back. "You don't have to blame yourself for this. This is what I asked for." Alger, who was in a good mood, smiled and said, "It is undoubtedly cost-effective to use a small flesh wound to deny this opportunity to go to the Abyss of Storms. Shouldn't going to the Storm Abyss be what you, the followers of the Storm Lord, dream of? Then when will the score be scored?" Thinking of the recent chaotic situation in the sea, Alger sighed and continued, "The war in the sea is about to begin. I wonder if the Church of Storms can maintain its position as the overlord of the sea this time. Do you think the Church of Storms will lose? At least it won't be easy to win. I don't want to get involved in this war." Alger laughed at himself and said, "I am also afraid of death. I put my own life first in everything. This is the real me. Death is something to be feared." Alger agreed with this sentence and looked at the burly Gehrman beside him. "Why do you happen to be here?" "Mr. Fool has a mission to assign. If you need help, I am willing to contribute. It's a secret." Gehrman just smiled and asked Alger to hide it. Then he turned and left. It was time for him to start busy with his own affairs. Looking at Gehrman's leaving figure, Alger murmured, "I don't know what Mr. Fool's attitude is towards this war, and which side will he stand on." After just thinking for a while, Alger hurriedly suppressed his thoughts of seeking death. Don't easily speculate on the thoughts of the gods. It will only bring misfortune to yourself. The most important thing for him now is to hide his traces and prevent them from being discovered by the local Church of Storms personnel. If the winner of this sea war is the Church of Storms, then Alger, the cardinal of the Church of Storms, will appear again. If the Church of Storms fails, then there will be no Alger in the world, only the hanged man of the Tarot Society.